All right, start recording in three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, a soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL from a bench perspective. And this is a Week 9 review. I'm your host Ben, and the teams got back after a little break, and some looked like they were maybe suffering still from a little break. And Saturday was a bonkers day because 8 games happened. I think it's because all the teams in Europe are there are a lot of teams this year in Europe, and the way they guess the scheduling was, they couldn't have a lot of teams play on Sunday. That's just kind of a guess, but there were some themes here. It was a day of red cards. I think like 5 games it featured a red card at least on Saturday. Day of comebacks. We saw plenty of those, and well. we got a chance to maybe see a couple teams maybe test a little of their resolve, but also we're still trying to figure out who really is good or not. Who's able to maybe separate themselves a little bit, and maybe this weekend gave us a little more answers to that as well. Uh, I mentioned there was a day of comebacks, and so I'll lead off with one of those games that had a comeback with Chelsea and Arsenal. Chelsea did go on to get an early goal lead with Cole Palmer having a PK. It's really unlucky for Arsenal, but I think given the way that they've been refing this year, this is probably the right call. A little unlucky, but it is what it is. Chelsea honestly did start off the better team. It is worth saying that. So the lead was deserved. And then they got the second goal lead, and I don't necessarily know if this was deserved or not. I do think the keeper is at fault with Raya and his positioning. And the way Mudryk celebrated, maybe he actually did mean to chip him from this distance. Most of the announcers and everyone I've seen speaking about this did think he just kind of got lucky and kind of sliced it in. He was trying to go for a cross, but when you go back, he's only got Reece James to aim something towards. So I don't really like not Reece James isn't going to be able to beat Tomiyasu or Saliba or Gabriel to a cross ball. So I don't really know. But anyways, it doesn't matter. They had the 2 goal lead, and it looked like Arsenal was going to suffer a pretty bad defeat. And then I mentioned Raya maybe had a little mishap. Chelsea's goalie had a little mishap with Sanchez basically just passing the ball away. Gives it to Declan Rice, and Declan Rice, to his credit, decides to just looks up and sees, hey, there's an open goal from 35 yards away, and passes it in. And it is credit to him because he could have looked for a teammate. He could have tried to do something a little bit more safe. If he goes for the chance and he misses, if it goes wide, people go at him as well. So credit to him there to take on that risk and to convert it. And then Trossard, a couple minutes later, was able to make it 2-2. And at that point, you maybe thought Arsenal were going to actually win the game. Um, so it was a bit of a bonkers game, and it was a big game for both teams. To be honest, Chelsea are about to hit a pretty rough stretch of scheduling. You still don't really know what you're going to expect with them. Here, I don't think anyone would have been able to predict their front three, because Jackson was available and he wasn't picked. So it was Cole Palmer was kind of played through the middle, but you almost didn't see a striker, essentially. I mean, you saw a lot of rotation. You saw Gallagher sometimes up there. You saw Sterling up there, and Cole Palmer, and it was very interesting to see how they went about that. And with Arsenal, again, the the interesting thing was with Arsenal is so Ray's been picked for all these games, and this time he would have been picked no matter what because Ramsdale wasn't even on the bench because apparently he just had his son born, and so people. I guess that was going to be a storyline with Raya, but he probably would have played anyways. But Arsenal have started to. It seems like Arteta is trying to somewhat pick a consistent 11 now. Before he wasn't really doing that. But I'm think we're starting to maybe see a couple players really overplayed. I mean, Saka, he was surprised because one week he's not fit and hurt, and then the next week he's still able to be in the 11, and I think he was being hacked left and right. It was surprising that he was able to even last the whole game, and I think we're starting to maybe see that of Odegaard as well. I don't. I'm probably making an excuse. I can't really say. The interesting thing though is it's back to back weeks we've seen Jorginho tried with Declan Rice is not really the six, is more kind of the kind of like an 8. He's like a pressing 8. And it has been interesting to see that. And what's weird is now this has worked, I guess, for them for a couple of these games. I didn't really think it necessarily worked here. Obviously it worked a little bit better for City, but I thought Arsenal were actually better when Jorginho went off, and Rice was honestly playing it as a single pivot. In that second half, and Arteta, made some brave subs to change the game, and really that is what allowed them to get a point. So that'll be a theme actually. I'll touch on. It's not necessarily that Arsenal are playing well, but Arteta is making the right decisions when the times are needed, and is that sustainable? That could maybe be something to talk about. But anyways, yeah, like I said, to get started with the match timeline, Chelsea did start off the brighter side. And what's funny is I was watching this with my brother, and he was like, "The scariest part of any game for Arsenal fans is that first like 60 seconds." I thought he was over exaggerating a bit. He went to go to the bathroom, so he even missed like the first 60 seconds. And Chelsea did get off a pretty good shot. Like 40 seconds into the game, it barely flashed over. And I was like, "Oh, I guess you called it." But you were watching this, and it was different because Cole Palmer was clearly not just played to be, as a right winger or almost like a 10. He really was kind of a false nine, and it was a different game for Arsenal center backs. I think this was a theme early in the game because instead of Holland, instead of like Saliba and Gabriel knowing who they had to mark, it was an entirely different dynamic, and Chelsea they were rotating between Sterling, Mudryk, Gallagher, and Palmer. And we get to the early the first goal with a PK, and it's a good example of what I mean here because it starts with Sanchez having the ball. Chelsea move it upfield. Sanchez does a risky pass, but it works out here. We'll get to that later on. That it doesn't work out in the second half. He picks up Mudryk, running backwards, and Mudryk chests it to Gallagher. He then finds Enzo, who passes it to Sterling upfield, occupying the right wing. And then Sterling waits a second here for Gusto to kind of overlap him, and then from there but he's also waiting for players to catch up, and that is important too, because when Sterling gets the ball, there's no one, to cross anything into. That's kind of the danger when you don't play with a striker. But the benefit of that is when Sterling does hold on to the ball, and Chelsea do create those runners forward, there's no one marking Cole Palmer at this point. And right, Gabriel and Saliba are just kind of sitting there, and they're waiting for someone to make a run at them, and that's kind of what happens. Cole Palmer makes a disguised run, and he's first to head the ball, and it hits Gabriel's arm afterwards. And it's really really harsh. It's unfair. But this kind of handball has been given all year, and something that's worth saying is defenders need to, at all times, I guess, have the wherewithal to have their hands behind their back at all times because this is getting called every single time it seems. Uh, and Arsenal got something similar, I think, for Spurs with Ben White, doing something clever, and I think they got a PK in that game as well. So it's not. It's one of those. You gotta got what would be like a good expression being like some giveth and then taketh away. I guess maybe I don't know. But another thing that is worth saying here is Palmer's head when he heads this. I think it is goal bound. It's going to Ray probably saves it comfortably, but still. So that I think it is the right call. And then Cole Palmer puts the PK away, and Chelsea already have a 20-year-old uh, as their PK taker, and I was a bit surprised by that. I figured it'd be Sterling or I don't know, maybe Enzo. Uh, and Man City's academy is actually kind of killing it this early part of the year. I'll get to a couple other players later. And Arsenal really didn't have much for chances in that first half. It was very scant from them. It was kind of chaotic, congested. I don't really know how you can really describe it. It just seemed, the front three weren't really working together. There was a lot of 1v1 stuff. There were a few times when, like, I don't know, Odegaard would maybe get the ball in the final third, get the ball in a good area, but the final pass would be off. There was a lot of maybe the ideas were there, but nothing was really coming off. So Sanchez, I don't even think had to make a save, but there was a chance here where Zinchenko was able to feed Rice the ball. He carries it into the box, and he tries to do something, with his outside of a foot, and he just kind of curves it a little bit wide. It's a decent chance here, but Rice also can't really cross anything in. There's no one. There's no one there. Sometimes when Gabriel Jesus plays, as good as he is, he likes being like a clever, creative kind of player as well. Sometimes he likes being a guy for link up, uh, and that's fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But when you're able to advance the ball a little forward, sometimes there's no one there. Chelsea were kind of having that issue as well. And then there was finally the other chance that came in the first half. Was Chelsea, and also came to Cole Palmer. It's set up by Gallagher, and I do want to touch about this because it's a fantastic play by Conor Gallagher. The Chelsea game had been sloppy from both teams at this point, but Chelsea were the more lively of the two sides, and they get a second chance here with Palmer just dragging a shot just a little wide way, and maybe has it covered, but it at least scares him a little bit. But Gallagher. He gets the ball close to maybe when he gets the ball, he's basically got three players on him, and he's able to carry it past all three without Arsenal being able to lay a glove on him. And then he feeds Cole Palmer, making that smart run into the Arsenal box. And to touch on Gallagher, I think he's starting to play his best football for Chelsea. And I didn't know how necessarily he was going to fit. It was interesting how a couple of weeks ago, maybe versus Bournemouth, I forget who it was. Uh, the Pochettino made him his captain, and I thought that was a little bit weird because I figured, well, you have Lavia coming in, you have yeah, I don't necessarily know what kind of formation you're trying to play. Uh, is Gallagher going to be the odd man out? Usually, you don't want your captain to not necessarily be that, and I don't think he's necessarily the captain still. I think maybe it's Thiago Silva now, but Cole Palmer since that game has really showed up, and I think the all of a sudden Enzo and Caicedo with him, you're starting to get a pretty good idea of how Chelsea are playing and how good that midfield three is working. It's very balanced. You've got attack playmaking. You've got forward runner in there. You've got a midfield that with Caicedo that can ball win and win some duels, win the ball back. Enzo is a very clever person on the ball. He doesn't really lose it, and he's very progressive with his passes. It's very balanced, and Gallagher is kind of that third option that has a lot of legs in him as well. And when he gets in the final third, he can be clever and he can be attack minded as well. He's got a good eye for a pass, and you saw it here. And so at halftime, it was only 1-0, but Arsenal really weren't doing a whole lot. And you were wondering, well, is Arteta going to make some changes? And he made a change I was not expecting at all. And I don't. I should have looked back. I don't necessarily know if it was because Zinchenko was maybe carrying something, but he took off Zinchenko for Tomiyasu. And the reason why I say it was surprising because Tommy also just is not the same player on the ball. He's maybe better defensively, and maybe he was worried about Chelsea's making some runs on Zinchenko's side, and maybe that was kind of the case. But once that change happened, Arsenal were worse on the ball. I thought. And really, the whole not that the change didn't necessarily work. And then, if anything, Chelsea are the team that ended up getting the second goal. And again, Mudryk maybe doesn't mean this, but I'm not gonna be that person. I think he takes it on. I think he does like look at it, and the way he celebrates. I mean, he sold it to me, so I don't necessarily know, but it's another really good moment by Gallagher. I want to say that too, because so Ben White has the ball and he passes it backwards, thinking it's gonna be safe. It's gonna get to Odegaard. Everything's gonna be fine. We can recycle. And Gallagher reads it and gets the turnover and then carries it upfield and waits for Mudryk to overlap him, and then plays him in. And I think Mudryk does see Raya off his line. So he goes for something ambitious, and or maybe he missed it across. I don't really know. But again, it's only Raheem Sterling in the box, and Tomiyasu is like right on his shoulder. I don't think Sterling has a chance to win this header. So maybe the ball, but either way, the ball does float in over Raya's hand. The reason why you maybe can go at Raya is his positioning is really high up. I don't think Raya thinks it's going to be a cross, and Raya is going to be able to just easily, run out and catch it essentially. And maybe someone like Ramsdale, maybe he's a little further back. Ramsdale is taller, maybe has more reach. So I think there is some substance to saying maybe this goal doesn't happen if Ramsdale is playing. But again, that said, all of it's mute. Not even because Ray is now the starter. Ramsdale had just had a kid, and so Raya would have played this game no matter what. So I don't really think there needs to be a whole lot of discussion about that. But one thing that is worth saying is Ramsdale. This might have actually gotten into his head a little bit because Ramsdale had a massive mess up later on in the game. So and that could maybe be a bit of a storyline as well. So uh, we move on and. Again, Arsenal just really weren't doing anything. They finally get a chance with Martinelli, and funny enough, it's very similar to what happened versus Man City. So finally, Arsenal get a shot or somewhat effort at near goal. So it's what happens here is Martinelli gets the ball from Declan Rice again. Right, he cuts inside, has a pop, and I think it deflects off Thiago Silva. But only this time it goes for a corner kick instead of going past Sanchez like we saw versus Ederson. But it was one of the few times where I think Jorginho got the better of Caicedo. Uh, he's able to win the ball back, and then Rice is able to get the ball forward, and he's able to find Martinelli. It's a good job by Declan Rice here. But the partnership between Jorginho and Rice, I did not think was working this time. Um, and then there was a chance for Palmer, and maybe this is where the game changed. So Raya has a horrid error, straight passing the ball to Cole Palmer. Inside Arsenal's penalty area, Raya is able to make up for it, though. He's able to time his dive just spot on and able to get to the ball and prevents Palmer from being able to get a shot into the open net. This ends up going for a corner kick. After that, Raya was actually spectacular. So this woke him up. For some reason, maybe he just wasn't on it. But that said, Raya had some errors in the Champions League game. It is worth kind of saying that as well. And he did something similar where he straight just a loose pass to the opposition team right into the penalty area. And versus Sevilla, he got lucky as well. So Arsenal Arteta maybe wants to play a little more front footed. Maybe wants the keeper to be a little more aggressive with his passes, but there is a risk that comes to that. Um, and then we have a big moment in the game where Arsenal have a free kick, and Saka finally gets the better of Cucurella, gets the foul. Odegaard sends a pretty good ball in, and Sanchez has a howler here. So I mentioned how maybe Raya's earlier effort maybe got to the better of him. I think this got to better of Sanchez. Sanchez gets lucky, in my opinion, to not get a PK drawn on him. So he comes out and he tries to punch the ball away, gets nowhere near it. Tomiyasu actually wins the first header, and then Sanchez bulldozes into Gabriel Jesus, knocking him out. And I didn't think it was a lot different from the Onana incident versus Wolves, if you recall the first week into the season, where Howard Webb came out a couple weeks later and said that should have been given as a PK. And I didn't think there was a whole lot different here. And the only thing I can think of is keepers are just given a little more of a freedom to get away with stuff. They're protected, I guess. But this was a massive error, and I think it maybe got into Sanchez's head. I can't really say. And then we have before the Arsenal goal, we did have a chance for Jackson, and Chelsea looked to maybe have the perfect counter on. There's a long ball by Raheem Sterling, found to Raheem Sterling, who's able to run at Gabriel. Looks like Arsenal kind of cooked here, and then he's able to. He has help with Jackson making a run to join him. Sterling slips him the ball. It's a good play by Sterling. Jackson gets into the box, and then he shows too much of the ball. And a better attacker, I think, makes something better than what Jackson does, 'cause Jackson doesn't even get a shot here. He shows Raya too much of the ball, and Raya does a fantastic job to jump on it, preventing any kind of further scare. He gets all the ball. If Raya misses, if he gets Jackson, it's a PK, obviously. And again, Jackson 1v1, most attackers should be able to do something different here. Jackson maybe was lost for confidence. I can't say. But this was play of the game, to be honest. This goes in. It's 3-0. You imagine maybe at the PK, or and the entire narrative I think changes completely. And the reason why is it's only a couple minutes later where Arsenal are the one that are able to get the goal to draw it back. And sometimes you just kind of need when you're not going well, maybe you just need a team to make a mistake to wake you up, and that's what happens here essentially. But you also need to make that mistake count. I think that's kind of worth mentioning as well. And both things happen here. So Colwell plays it back to Sanchez, thinking things are fine. Sanchez then tries to pick out a teammate and passes it to absolutely no one in a blue shirt. It's just a loose ball. Rice is the first to it. He sees Sanchez is out of his box and passes it into the net from 35 yards. Um, but I want to also say here, Nketiah is somewhat jogging towards Sanchez. So it's not like Sanchez necessarily has a lot of time. I mean, it's not like Nketiah is like pressing him really hard, but Nketiah is in the area. So I think that maybe put Sanchez off a little bit. But at the same time, it's 2-0. It's not like Arsenal are peppering you. It's not like Arsenal have a lot of possession here. Uh, Put it out of bounds. It's easy to kind of say in hindsight, but anything's better than what he does here. It's a howler. It really is. And it's a good job, but by Rice. He still has a lot to do. And credit to him for taking the chance and converting it. And it completely changed the game. It rattled Chelsea, and again, Arteta brought in some other subs. He brought on Trossard, brought on Havertz, for Martinelli and Odegaard. He also brought in Smith Rowe and Tomiyasu and Nketiah in the second half as well. And all of these players had an impact, for these 2 goals. Another thing I was surprised by uh, uh, was what Chelsea was doing. So Reece James was available this game, and you understand maybe Pochettino kind of trying to wade him in essentially. But we saw Reece James come on and get some minutes, and the real shock to me was he still played Gusto, and so he had Reece James and Gusto playing at the same time, and that ends up kind of backfiring a little bit because here that kind of is where Arsenal get the second goal. So Gusto first has a really bad clearance. It's just hopeful. It's desperate, and he gives the ball right back to Arsenal. Rice first heads the ball to Ben White. Declan Rice in this position because he's further back this time. I don't think Jorginho maybe even like wins his header. So it goes to Declan Rice, but Rice is a little taller, a little bigger, better in the air. And it goes to him, and he's able to head this away. Uh, Heads it to Ben White, and then Ben White finds Havertz, and Havertz has found a little pocket of space in between Caicedo and, so I guess he's in front of Caicedo and also behind no, he's behind Caicedo and in front of the Chelsea back line. I guess you can maybe put it that way. So it's good positioning, by Havertz to kind of, recognize where there's a little space to operate in. Ben White does a good job to get him the ball, and from there, let's see, uh, he's able to find Saka. And again, this is where having someone like Nketiah, I think, helps Arsenal as opposed to maybe Gabriel Jesus. Now, a lot of Arsenal fans don't really like Nketiah, and maybe in a lot of these games it hasn't really worked out. But this is where just having someone in position in the box helps you out, helps the team out. So Thiago Silva is forced to mark Nketiah. When Saka is crossing this ball in, his focus is on Nketiah and no one else. Gusto also sees Nketiah in front of him, and I think is distracted by him. And so Thiago Silva is also the furthest back than anyone else, and he's playing Trossard on sides. And this allows Trossard to make that clever run in behind that just goes missed to that back post, and Saka picks him out perfectly. And what's funny is my brother after Mudrik's goal went in. He was like, "Oh man, he's who Arsenal should have gotten instead, or he was supposed to be an Arsenal player." This stings, and and then after that, he was like, "Well, it evened out because Trossard is the guy we got instead, and he's better anyways." So that was kind of funny. Uh, but it is great play by Arsenal. But again, just kind of similar with Arsenal and Chelsea. Chelsea have to kick themselves here. Sanchez, I think, could maybe do better with the Trossard shot as well. And then there was a chance, like a half chance for Nketiah, where he's able to kind of pick something out of nothing. Finally, Arsenal play a ball in behind. They just weren't really doing that at all. And it's a great ball, by Ben White, who decided to go blonde this game. That was a bit different. But Nketiah makes a run in behind the gap of Colwell and Thiago Silva, gets to a loose ball and tries to flick something towards goal and misses it wide. But I like the idea, I like the effort. I was, I think teams can go at Thiago Silva, to be honest. And Colwell has to like kind of baby him. Uh, so I do think Chelsea. I mean, Thiago Silva is still fantastic on the ball, but still, I think he is vulnerable defensively. And then Chelsea had a chance to win it with Jackson, and it is a good save by Raya. He gets down quickly to stop a shot that is heading underneath him. So, uh, and after that misplaced pass, I thought Raya had a pretty good game. But He apparently didn't follow through because he had a shocker versus Sevilla. But yeah, this game was a game of mistakes, poor goalkeeping, and chaos. So a perfect London derby. Arsenal were fortunate that they were up against a side maybe as poor as Chelsea are in front of goal. And really lucky that right his mistakes didn't bite them more. But there was a lot of praise of Chelsea for this game, and I was one. I mentioned it with Jeremy on the podcast a couple of shows ago. I was a little bit more, I guess, bearish or bullish on Chelsea. Thinking that they can maybe make a run at this, regardless of their schedule. And I thought that because of their midfield. And what's weird is, they get a pretty good draw here versus Arsenal, but I'm less hesitant than I was before this, if that makes sense. Sometimes I can be contrarian, so maybe when people are starting to follow the Chelsea train, maybe I pull back. I don't really know if that's just my reaction. But I really was not that impressed. I mean, one big chance for Chelsea, one big chance for Arsenal. I thought Arsenal were really really poor, and it was just most teams should have been able to finish them off. And so I do think that's something worth saying. Uh, Sanchez has been a pretty good keeper for them this season. I think I saw he's number one or two when it comes to shots saving actions that should have been a goal, or I guess however they calculate XG. Sanchez has been quite a good shot stopper for them this season, and it is unfortunate that his mistake with the feet, with his feet, his mistake with the ball is basically what cost him here. I also think he maybe could have done better with the Trossard chance, but anyways, but you know, he was at Brighton, and the reason why De Zerbi decided to ship him away was because of that. He didn't trust him with his feet, and I remember there were a couple games with Liverpool where Sanchez had some howlers as well. So uh, I don't really know what to necessarily think. It was a strange game because Chelsea had like 30% of the possession in the first half, and you just heard the announcers doing nothing but praising them. And again, I didn't really see them doing a whole lot with that possession. I mean, both teams, 11 shots here, 13 for Arsenal, 3 on target, 5 on target. The XG was about 1 apiece. Chelsea did have a majority of possession in the second half. I thought they were better in the second half. I think that also, I thought Arsenal were also kind of worse with Zinchenko coming on. But Arsenal at that, to be fair, were better. I guess attacking wise. I guess you can maybe say that. So I mean, there are some positives. I liked seeing Smith Rowe get a chance. So I liked what Arteta did with the subs, and he did something similar with City. It wasn't necessarily working out in the first half, and he was able to change it where you're able to do a little bit more on the ball. So I mean, again, I don't necessarily know how sustainable that is over the course of the season, but it's working out here. But I am a little bit worried about Odegaard. I don't really understand why it's not necessarily working, and it's not maybe he's tired. I can't really say. But he's just he would get the ball, and these are simple passes, and he was giving the ball away. And it's not something you normally expect when when he gets the ball. Normally he makes the right decisions, or at least normally the team keeps it, and he just wasn't impactful at all. And then Zinchenko was subbed at halftime. I thought that was a bit surprising, but Tommy also is better defensively, and maybe the idea was to make sure you have someone on Sterling, but the topic is Declan Rice, and it's funny because I think watching at least in that first half, the thought I kept going to is it was kind of crazy how Arsenal are the team that have Jorginho now, and Chelsea are the team that have Caicedo. When I feel like Arsenal should have gone for Caicedo, and they ended up doing Jorginho, kind of the cheaper option in January, and then it's not necessarily like Declan Rice was cheap, but it was interesting how they immediately saw Declan Rice was the player they wanted when Caicedo was probably available. And there's something to be said about wanting to play at a club, and it's something that I maybe sometimes overlook. Because I mean, you've heard the way Declan Rice has talked about it, and he just he was a lot of money, so you can maybe say that. And there have been some times where I've thought it hasn't necessarily worked out. But that said, anytime I try to make a case against him, he pops up with the biggest moments. In here and versus Man United. And he had a quite a good game without the ball versus Man City. He was as influential as any player, as maybe Saliba, versus Man City, without the ball. And so, he started to put a little rap sheet together where he can he's worthy of some praise now. I still think he could be a little bit better on the ball. I don't necessarily know if I like the way Arteta is playing him. I thought he was actually better as a single pivot in the second half. Uh, because what happened was, he Arteta brought on Smith Rowe to kind of just be another creative, advanced midfielder, in the game, and Smith Rowe didn't necessarily have the most impactful game, but it gave Chelsea something to think about. So I liked it, and I think it's worth giving him his flowers. Again, that shot isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. And he got it into the side net, perfect. But this still team isn't firing yet. And how do you get this attack to fire? Um, and my brother actually wants to see Martinelli maybe try through the middle, and maybe you can try Trossard and Martinelli that way. It seems like Arteta might have to do something because Gabriel Jesus was subbed early versus Sevilla yesterday, and it's probably as good as he's looked in a long time. And because the turn he has to set up Martinelli is absolutely incredible, and he had a great goal to basically win the game with that second goal. But it looked like he maybe got something with his hamstring, and the Arteta is going to have to think of what to do. I don't necessarily know if the idea is to try Havertz. You do have Nketiah, maybe that could be the idea, but I don't know. Andrew seems to think Martinelli is the secret sauce, playing him through the middle, not necessarily out wide. Maybe he knows his team more than I do. For what I remember, I thought he was supposed to be kind of their number nine when he got to the club. But he's been so good, getting the ball on the wing and cutting inside. I don't necessarily know if you want to necessarily lose that, but something. I mean, Arsenal still aren't necessarily firing at all cylinders here, and one thing that is worth thinking about is it is back to back games where Arteta has been brave and gotten his decisions right and been rewarded with them. But the thing that is worth saying is Arsenal still aren't really again clicking. And it is funny because when they were able to tie it, kind of get out of nowhere. I was starting to think maybe they're the second coming of like the 1920 Liverpool side because Liverpool won a lot of games in kind of an unexplainable manner. But I think fate can only last you for so long. To be honest, eventually quality does need to show up, and we're just not necessarily seeing that yet. So I don't necessarily want to poo on their parade. It could have been worse, but again, you still for a team that really hasn't been changed that much from last season. It's not the same team. They're not nearly as fluid, and I can't necessarily explain why. They are better defensively. You have Saliba back. It is worth continuing to repeat that. But they also have they have Champions League now. It's a different task. So I don't and I still don't necessarily know what to think of Arsenal. And then with Chelsea, I don't understand what to think about them either. I think it's a great example or exhibition that Chelsea are close, but not there yet, and that gap isn't insignificant. Again, the commentators were overly praising how good Chelsea were, and I didn't really think they created a ton of clear cut chances, and they were able to turn Arsenal over a lot. That midfield was doing its job, in my opinion, of and so Caicedo and Gallagher. And I already spoke about them, but there's this good balance of technical quality, work rate, dual winning, and progressing in the final third. Either forward runs or through balls, and I just and you don't necessarily know how that front line is going to work. I would like to see Sterling tried at the left. Mudryk got the goal, and good for him. Mudryk didn't necessarily have a bad game, but I still don't necessarily know what the role is for him. Sometimes he's even dropping deep, uh, which I think that is an interesting dynamic for them. But I liked what Sterling showed for Burnley. Playing on the left, and I liked what Gallagher showed. I mean, Cole Palmer showed by playing on the right. And I think you need a little focal point with Jackson instead, or maybe Jackson, I guess, did have a couple chances in the second half, and he didn't necessarily take them. Maybe Cole Palmer is your guy. I can't necessarily say, but one thing you can say is they're getting Reece James back finally, and they will be a better team with him. So it is worth kind of saying that, you know, because as good as they were at kind of limiting Arsenal, I did feel like it was more a case of Arsenal just playing a board game than necessarily Chelsea, playing great defensively. Reece James will change a little more of that, not only defensively, but he's got some of that service. I think that's another reason why you maybe should play Jackson. Jackson's going to score more goals with Reece James being in the team, in my opinion. And it is a murder's row of a schedule now to mid December. They do have Brentford coming up. Brentford actually looked as good as they've looked all year. So I don't necessarily know if that game's going to be easy. And then it's Spurs, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, and Manchester United. And until mid December. So w- it's gonna be, and by December, if they are able to withstand that, they're going to get Nkuku back around that time, and Chelsea will be a different team, I think, with Nkuku. And soon they might be able to get Carly Chukwuemeka back. To either play as either someone in the front line or maybe as kind of like a number 10. And that'll probably help lead to some goals as well. So it's not all necessarily terrible. They have Broja as an option. Maybe if they don't want to try Jackson, it is worth saying that as well. But there's a lot of ifs there for a team that has spent $1 billion. So I mean, I don't need to necessarily do that rant again. And anyways, I will move on to Liverpool and Everton, and this one ends with a two-goal win for Liverpool, and woke up early early Saturday morning, and I was a little worried about it because a lot of people had been praising Everton, and yeah, this game has given me kind of nightmares. As Liverpool fans have had kind of nightmares playing this Everton side. You just go back to the Van Dijk loss that was crushing, and they also injured Thiago. And maybe in that same maybe in the same game, there've been a lot of just nervy moments, and here I don't necessarily nervy because Liverpool as straight dominated, but there was a little uh, anyways. There was a little nerves to start the game because McAllister had a hard giveaway and Calvert-Lewin had a free header, essentially. He jumped over Van Dijk, and, thankfully, he just headed to Alisson. But, just early on, you were like, "Uh-oh." But, and then, there were a couple of decent moments down the left side. Another thing that's interesting is it was the first game to see without Andy Robinson. They're gonna be without Andy Robinson maybe for till December, or maybe even a little bit later than that because of his shoulder injury. So that's going to be something to follow with. And what Klopp did in the second half is going to be something to worth highlighting as well because he took Zemeckis off and brought him on for a player that you wouldn't have really expected, or at least the the player he put in that position is maybe not something you would have expected. But anyways, the first half was just a chance after chance for Liverpool on counters. And what's funny enough is maybe their best chances came when Everton like, had a corner kick or something. And you think of Everton as getting kind of a set piece. You're like, oh, this they have Tarkowski. This can be these danger moments. And instead, just if Liverpool winning the first ball winning, getting a 50-50 their way and able to go in transition, they look lightning in transition again. And just the only theme in the first half was just messing up the final pass or the final shot. So here we have a Luis Diaz counter. They have four options here in the sprint. Schleberschlei has the ball. He's got Jota, Salah, and Diaz to aim something at, and he picks out Diaz. And then Everton actually do well here with Ashley Young to block this. But they just kept screwing up chance after chance, and I was like, ah. Or I guess Everton, I guess we're defending well. I can't really say. But Ashley Young gets his first yellow with Luis Diaz kind of drawing the first one. He draws both. So here, he's being put on an island with no help from anyone. And I think Shandai should have recognized this. He didn't, thankfully. Luis Diaz decided to take him on and get to the byline from here. And I guess it was the second yellow. So the first one, Luis Diaz was able to get by him, and Ashley Young just takes him out. So Ashley Young has a yellow. and then Diaz decides to still take him on 1v1 with the with no help, and Diaz gets to the byline, and from there, Yasha Young goes to the ground and he misses the ball, and it is a clear yellow. And I think it's another example. I mentioned this, I guess, last episode. How important it is to get touches near the byline versus a defense sitting in a block. Because you do that, that forces everyone to move and shift over. It is so much too often you're seeing guys just playing in the half space, playing the word is inverted. The reason why they play inverted, quote unquote, is because that is where their stronger foot is. Their weak foot is the one outside. So here, Luis Diaz is able to get to the byline to maybe try across from the left side with his left foot, and Ashley Young doesn't want any of that to happen, and so he takes him out. It is a yellow, and there you go. Everton have to play the final 70 minutes down a man. The first red card of the game of the window, and it was one of like four or one of five. And then, before halftime, Liverpool did have a barrage of chances. It was going to be a case of can Liverpool just get the first goal, essentially, because Everton were just, playing, playing a prayer, praying for a way to just kind of get a point, a drawless 0-0, essentially. So here, the first chance comes from Trent. It's a half chance. It's going to rebound or corner kick, and then Sloboshai has the ball on top of the box. He feeds in Trent, occupying the right wing, and he flashes a really good hard ball across the goal. It reaches no one, but I liked this. I liked the way that they were trying to think about how to change how you would cross the ball in. It wasn't just aimless hoofing from wide areas where Everton had a packed box. Liverpool were making the move. They were moving the ball quickly. I liked it. And then there was a half chance for Sloboshai. He does well to draw the defender away from him, and then he has a shot top of the box and flies it over. But the so halftime I thought was this is a game that you need to bring Nunes on, but I was worried because I didn't want Jota to come off because I thought it's coming apparent Jota doesn't necessarily work as a feature striker. Maybe not strong enough on the ball. Maybe not great back-to-back goal, but he makes such clever runs in the box and always seems to just have a knack for finding the ball, finding a bounce in a packed penalty area. I wanted Jota to stay on the field, and I wanted Nunes to come on, and I didn't know how Klopp was going to be able to do that. I figured, he'll just maybe take Luis Diaz off, and maybe bring Jota, moves Jota over, and play Darwin Nunes. I didn't necessarily want that either because I thought Luis Diaz was doing great at taking his defender 1v1 and either creating a foul or drawing a corner kick. I liked what I saw from Luis Diaz. I know he didn't necessarily get a lot of praise from fans on social media because it wasn't always coming off, but I liked the way he was taking people on. So I didn't know what he was necessarily going to do, and then Klopp brought Nunez on, and he took Tsimikas off and moved Luis Diaz to kind of be his left back. And this was so you had Nunez and Jota as like a front two, and this is what wins them the game. And so the first chance came to Jota, and again I like this because Jota is able to get the ball before the box, and he's able to carry it, taking on a few Everton players on the move. And again, that's what you need to do versus a deep block. You need to make those defenders move. If nothing else, make them move from where they are. And he tries to pick out Luis Diaz in the box and misplays the pass, but it finds Salah instead, and Salah has a good crack. It's blocked by Tarkowski. Nothing comes from the chance, but again, I thought it was a good sign. The worry, again, to me, is when you see just aimless hoofing into a packed area, when you have zero ideas. So we weren't necessarily seeing that, but it was getting into the 70th minute where there still hadn't been a goal. And then here, Luis Diaz nearly draws a PK. I thought this should have been called. So a lot has been made about the handball and Kanate being sent off. Because before this, Kanate had a couple nervy moments. He got a yellow early in the second half, and then probably could have gotten a second yellow. And I'm not going to necessarily defend it. I thought he was going to be sent off, to be honest. Watching it live, but he wasn't. And then here, I thought Luis Diaz maybe drew a PK, and this wasn't given as well. So maybe you can say that it evened out. I don't really know. But so here, Luis Diaz does well to get Patterson to go to the ground and completely takes him out by sliding. So he's shown the ability to kind of to get to the byline, and what he does here is he fakes it. So he runs to the byline and then he kind of fakes across. He cuts in, and that gives Patterson to go to the ground and try to block. He thinks he's going to block across, and he basically ends up sliding in to Luis Diaz, and he takes him out. And so I was surprised this wasn't given. And uh, anyways, it was kind of unfortunate they weren't that he wasn't rewarded with it. But again, it's another example of how threatening you can be by just getting to the byline in an opponent's penalty area. I think teams need to maybe attack that more. And the reason why I say that is, again, we see so many teams just playing inverted, where either it's fullback or they're wide players where they're only playing in the half spaces, and it's not you're not seeing a lot of teams being able to attack in that area of the field, and I think it congests games. So this is a way to kind of get through that. So. Uh, Anyways, Luis Diaz, creates that chance, and Everton are able to get lucky here. They aren't able to get lucky on the second one. So you got the warning, and you weren't able to switch up. And here, there's no reason, I think, for Luis Diaz to be able to keep going 1v1 down this side. I don't understand why he wasn't given help. So this one does feel harsh, but again, the arm is out. And not only is the arm out, Nunez is going to make a run past Tarkowski. I think he's going to be able to make a play on the ball if it doesn't hit Michael Keane's arm. So it's close range, but again, defenders need to defend with their arms behind their back. And then Salah was able to bury the PK, and that was good because Pickford tried to do that goofy water bottle trick he pulled versus James Madison last May, and it didn't work. Salah was able to. I don't even think Pickford even moved. Or he did. He went the wrong way, so it didn't work. Great PK by Salah. And from there, Liverpool had a barrage of chances to close it out, and then they finally got the second with Salah. So I do want to touch on a couple of these. I mean, Nunez is able to lead a counterattack. He gets Braithwaite to almost like head the ball into his own net. I like this, but it didn't necessarily come out. So maybe Nunez had that in his mind. Keep it thought. And then Harvey Elliott had a really nice shot from distance that forced a good Pickford save. And then Jota had another clever dribble into the Everton penalty area. It was so good for Klopp to keep Jota on. Basically, he had Luis Diaz and Jota, and they were like the dribble monsters. They were able to be able to get the ball on the move and make a couple people miss. And when you can do that, that again forces everyone to shift over, and that's where you can create some chaos. And that especially what you need to do when a team is organized and deep against you. You need to go at them, and you need to at least get by the first defender, the first line of defense, to make everyone else shift over. And Jota had a spectacular game doing that. And again, Klopp, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if Liverpool would have been able to win this game a year or two ago. To be honest, because one, I don't think Klopp would have had the players to figure it out, and two, I don't think he would have made this kind of decision. He was so rigid with his 4-3-3 and with the midfield that are able to win the ball back. But if you got a team sitting against you, Jordan Henderson or Ronaldo or Milner, they're not going to be able to break through a deep block, kind of like this. And anyways, and we get to the second goal, and I want to touch on this too because of the ball that McAllister plays. So Everton actually look like they have the ball in a dangerous spot. It's close to the penalty area. Matip is able to pick the ball off, and then he finds McAllister, and McAllister plays past the game. He threads a perfect ball. It's quickly too, and I don't because if you're doing this aimlessly, you could possibly just be giving the ball right back to Everton. But he's able to see that Nunez is all alone, and he's able to play a perfect ball to him. Nunez is able to turn and run into open space, and from there you have a 2v1. And it's all about making the right decision. And Nunez, executes right. He makes the run at it's either Tarkowski or Michael Keane and or Braithwaite, and he's able to play in Salah, and then Salah one times it past Pickford for the perfect finish and perfect way to end the game. And it's so good by Nunez because I don't think he would have done this last season. I think he would have tried to maybe take it on, and I think it wouldn't have come off. Again, the thought I had when he came on was, man, has he improved? He's improved his touch, his dribbling, his passing. And obviously, he's still required to finish, and good for Salah to finish. And he's on 11 goal involvements through 9 games. It's worth keeping that in mind. It is insane how he just keeps able to produce. And weirdly enough, it feels like he's underrated. He's not talked about the way Kevin De Bruyne is from Man City. Maybe that's just kind of being harsh or not. But just I don't like people don't realize just how good he's been his entire time in the league. Anyways, he continues to show it. But this game like mini on Saturday is where maybe a team wasn't at their best, but they were able to get the 3 points when they needed to. Uh, that actually was a big theme as well because you can say the same thing for Man City. But I do think it was deserved before from my perspective because before the red they were creating another good chances. You just figured it was going to be a disaster, and after the red, you figured it would be a disaster not to win. I do think the PK is unlucky, but I do think it's the right call, and I think the talk that Kanate should have been sent off. I thought in real time he was in trouble. So I do think there is something worth saying there. But I think the real thing to focus on is the changes that Klopp made in the second half. That's what won the game. He brought on Nunez for Simikas, moved Luis Diaz to left back, kept Jota on, and that allowed Liverpool to basically play with five attackers. And Luis Diaz was getting the ball in a deeper area and was able to take on Everton's back line with momentum. And he was able to terrorize Everton's fullbacks. And so I mean, Liverpool had 26 shots, six on target, two big chances for Liverpool. 78% possession. Again, the red card from like minute 30 on, so that is probably what you expect. And the passing numbers 649. Everton's probably what you would expect as well. Uh, but I did have a positive for Luis Diaz. Again, he was getting a lot of stick, and I liked the way he was able to not only get past Everton defenders, but he was trying to get to the byline. And basically that's what led to the PK, and that's what led to the red card. So I liked seeing that. I liked Jota and Nunez playing together. I liked seeing that. And frankly, I thought Virgil van Dijk had a really good defensive performance. To be honest, Kanate was kind of a little bit off it, but Virgil van Dijk was good. He got beaten on that Calvert Lewin chance, but that was really it. Uh, but Klopp's maybe the story of this game because again of the second half decisions that paid off, and sometimes he's been hesitant to make big moves, and I like it. And also like there are different ways to attack with this team now. They can win the ball back quickly. Again, it is worth saying that they have a midfield with McAllister and Slobosly, even Elliott or Gravenberch that offer you a different dynamics. All of them and they can play in different positions as well. Slobosly can either play on the right side or the left side. Uh, and McAllister can either play as like kind of a deep number six or further up. The way he's playing Trent Alexander-Arnold, he seems to have a different position or different role game week to game week, and he seems capable of doing that. There's just when you hear like technical. I mean, I guess this may be kind of a loaded word, but that's a good way to describe this team because it's positionless. Everyone's talented in different ways. Talented with the ball at their feet and without. They can win it back, and you can play through the middle. You can play wide. The big thing too is you've got attackers that can stretch the pitch out. They're not necessarily playing narrow, and you've got players that can also you have some dribble beast in here that can take players on and beat them 1v1. And then you got someone like Nunez if you need to cross stuff in. If Gakpo will eventually be able to play in. He'll be someone to aim stuff in the box. Gravenberch is tall. He can make some runs into the box. Like there are a number of ways to play now. So there's a lot of positives. The only thing is depth again can kind of be at the back end can be questioned. They do have Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa has played well in a couple of these games, but again he's so young. If something were to happen and he had to play a lot, that could be a little concern. Joe Gomez has kind of been hit and miss. And what is Klopp going to do now that Andy Robinson isn't going to be able to play? Samikas was playing okay. And the funny thing going into this game is I was wondering if that was going to actually make Luis Diaz a better player. Because for some reason, Diaz and Andy Robinson have not had the best partnership together. And a few games that Samikas has played, Luis Diaz has actually had his best games. So maybe Luis Diaz is going to really, really benefit from this. I don't really know. But I do think Samikas is not as good defensively as Robinson. And two, Klopp's been doing this weird kind of back three rotations at times in the game, and I don't think he can do that with Samikas. So again, it's going to be maybe the idea could be Joe Gomez as kind of your left back now, but I don't really know. I did like the wrinkle though of Luis Diaz kind of being able to play as a like a makeshift attacking left back. You can do that when a team is down a man. You don't really have any kind of a any kind of threat to do behind you. It's not like he had to do a whole lot of defending. But I liked the tweak. I liked the thinking. I liked the idea behind it, and it worked. And then with Everton, there were a couple positives, to be honest. I mean, Braithwaite, I thought had a really good game, since he's come into the 11 over Michael Keane, which we'll get to, Everton have been playing better. So the Braithwaite and Tarkowski, it's not it's not bulletproof because you can still they still can't really play a high line. They neither have really great pace. But I think that's helped them out, and I also think Mikolenko, to an extent, did a pretty good job locking up Salah. Salah didn't really, beat anyone, beat him 1v1. Salah really wasn't that influential, when you think back. And he still he buried the PK and was able to finish that 1v1 chance. But Salah was kind of shut down a little bit. Mikolenko did a good job on Salah. I also think, someone like Onana is a good player with a unique skill set for his size. And I don't necessarily think this is the worst outcome for Everton, and frankly, I think it's another example that Sean Dyche needs to not play Michael Keane. I get you wanted to play another defender in there, but better defenders know how to keep their arms back. But uh, Dyche's in his post game comments was highlighting the Kanate second yellow, and Beto is likely to get free on a run, and he's got maybe he's able to do 1v1 with Allison because Virgil is near the ball, but I think Beto has the pace to sprint past him. So this is going to be at a time when it is a 0-0 game. This was a big moment. And Klopp saw it. He immediately took Kanate off for Matip after this. So Everton, I guess, might have a right to be incensed, but the other calls I think were right. Definitely two yellows on Ashley Young, and the PK I thought was right too. But Everton, I think, are in decent shape now, or at least they were until yesterday, where it looks like there's an investigation ongoing into them for breaching financial rules, which could lead to deductions. And the only thing I was thinking about reading that, I was like, well, City and Chelsea have been able to get away. I find this utterly farcical. But I don't know. This might be a story we have to follow, because that would immediately change everything. But I was worried about Everton after that Aston Villa game, where Villa scored 4, they could have scored maybe 8 that day, and Sean Dyche has upped them up. He's able to, so maybe they will be okay. Obviously, without the point deductions, that'll be something to follow. Uh, and then I'll move on to Man City and Brighton. This is probably the second game I was most looking forward to on the weekend. And the first half was kind of meh. The second half was quite good. It's the Zerbi it's the Zerbi and Pep. So I don't know. I figured I felt this kind of went under the radar a little bit. This was a big game for the weekend. Big game for the narratives as well. Because again, it's the two coaches that have probably been talked about most, other than Arteta. Uh, and City haven't lost 3 times in a row, or maybe they've done it once. I can't remember what the stat was. But City also had Rodri back. But Man City also went with a different lineup. Pep decided to play Jeremy Doku. I don't get why he didn't do that versus Arsenal, and we saw Doku absolutely have fun in this game. And then it was Foden back on the right side, though he really didn't have a position. And then Alvarez underneath Haaland. Alvarez is kind of like the second striker for them, and then Rodri and Silva, and then Walker Stones, Akanji, and Gvardiol. And then with Brighton, when I looked at this, I immediately thought this is going to be trouble. Dingray, Welbeck, Mitoma, and then Yao Pedro underneath. That's okay. Carlos Balba and Gross for the midfield too. That seems okay. And then it was Sully Marsh at left back, Hugo Julio, Lewis Dunk, and James Milner at right back. And I went to my notes and I was like, Milner's going to be a problem. And Milner versus Jeremy Doku. I don't know about that. And what happens immediately in the fourth minute of the game? Jeremy Doku has a chance. So Foden's starting position, I think, is a little bit wild because it's very deep and it's basically centrally. It almost seems like Kyle Walker is supposed to be City's like right wing now, but I don't necessarily think that works either. But and I'll get to that later. So I mean, Foden does a good job centrally here. It is worth saying that, but I just don't think he's offering width um, when City sometimes need it. So He's in a perfect position here when Alvarez loses the ball to get it, and he's able to skip past a couple Brighton people to kind of trying to get him to turn it over. So it's good ball control by Foden, and then he makes the right decision to get it to Doku, and then from there Milner can only pray. He's given Doku 15 yards of space to do whatever he wants. Doku takes a cut and tries to go for the far corner and just misses. If Doku can just kind of find a way to add a little more end product, he's going to be extremely dangerous. But until then, he's good, but he's not great. But I have a feeling, and he wasn't really offering a lot of end product in for Renee. But that said, that can change. He's looking to take chances on, and he's not necessarily missing from a lot. And I think he played on the right side yesterday and had a couple chances as well. And again, his efforts were finding the goal. They're forcing some saves. So that's the only maybe negative or critique you can say of him. But for being so young, he's so good dribbling 1v1. He's allowing City to play differently down that side because we're so used to seeing Grealish being played on there. We're so used to seeing wingers that their goal is to get the ball to maybe keep that space and to recycle possession to it's not necessarily to take players 1v1 and to create chances. Doku creates chances. And we get a chance to see that with the goal. Scored by Alvarez. And Brighton got the for early warning with Doku being able to cause a problem, and he creates another chance here. And this time he cuts toward the byline, and Milner is sitting completely off. Pascal Gross is too late to engage, and is beaten by Doku's little change of pace to get to the byline. Again, getting to the byline. And then Doku does a cutback ball into a dangerous area in the penalty area and picks out Alvarez. And Alvarez maybe has a little luck. He scuffs the shot, but it goes over Jason Steele. And just everyone at this point is worried about Holland. And Doku honestly has two options here with the cutback ball. He's got Bernardo Silva being unmarked as well. Brighton did not do that great here. And then there was a chance for Brighton in the 11th minute. They finally broke up. But two reasons to highlight this is it's terrific play by Carlos Balba in the beginning. He receives the ball under pressure and then he's able to run with it upfield before being chased. He finds Matoma, and then Matoma does really well to basically create something out of nothing. He gets by Kyle Walker and John Stones. He gets Stones to fall for a dummy and a couple feints. But it's a weak shot and it's kind of poor end product. And the reason to highlight that is because what I said about Doku, you can kind of maybe say about Matoma. Um, but that again, that is kind of grasping for straws. What do you really want from your wide players? Do you want them to be really good in possession? Do you want them to not necessarily turn it over? Do you want them to be great ball retention under pressure? Be able to beat players 1v1, create chances. Do you want them to also offer a little goal threat? And it seems Matoma and Doku just are lacking in those two things. It's only one thing, but it is a big thing. Um, and then we'll get to the City second goal, and it's unfortunate because I just highlighted how good Carlos Balba was in that moment, and here he makes a little mistake here. Um, so it's a poor touch and basically gives the ball. It kind of deflects right back to Holland. It's off a Brighton throw in, so that's unfortunate as well. And they get caught maybe trying to be too cute. Bernardo Silva immediately pressures Balba into a mistake. And then from there, Duncan decides to stay in the penalty area rather than engage. And he even shifts away from the goal when Holland's setting up. And it's the wrong decision by Lewis Dunk. And Holland's able to pick his spot and just fires it hard into the corner with precision and power. And then I had a chance for Jeremy Doku. Again, it's similar to the first chance where Ford Foden is receiving the ball deep in a kind of in a deep position centrally. And he has a good run with the ball. He draws multiple people onto him. And he's able to find Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva carries upfield before finding Doku on the wing again. And again, Doku takes on Milner 1v1. Milner is leaving 5 yards between him. And again, Doku nearly cuts inside and picks out the corner from the far post. So halftime thought, I was like, you got to do something with Milner. It's not going to work. And De Zerbi, I guess, agreed. Because he immediately subbed off Milner for Jeremy Veltman. Veltman. And I think City maybe win this game comfortably, like 4-5-0, if Milner had played the whole 90. So because Doku was doing whatever he wanted, and so this change made sense. It was a must. And Brighton were the better team, in my opinion, in the second half. So we have an early chance for Pascal Gross, and uh, finally City at least forced to sweat a little bit That's a big chance. Pascal Gross needs to do better, in my opinion. Brighton have done a good job in the second half of actually pressing Ortega into some mistakes. It is worth saying that as well. Ederson didn't play this game; it was Ortega, and Ortega had done okay up to this point, but he did have a couple chances where yeah, he was trying to do something similar that Breyer was doing, and they were pressing him, and he was trying to pick out a City player, and here he just passed it to Adengra, and Brighton are able to get the ball. Adengra does a good job to see that Pascal Gross is just wide open in the penalty area, and Pascal Gross has collects it. He's able to turn on it, and he uh, he he has a Ortega comes out to him, and he tries to. I don't even think he tries to chip him. He just he hits a shot just wide, and he can't finish, and this is a shame. But after that, Mitoma really came alive. So Mitoma wasn't really doing a whole lot in the first half. He did have that one moment, but he kind of took over the game, to be honest. So there's a nice little dribble here at the 63rd minute. He's able to draw a yellow on Akanji. That's worth highlighting. Akanji brings him down. And then he has a couple of chances later on. But before that, there was a chance for Holland. And this was maybe the first chance in the half for City. So City just were not nearly able to create anything in the second half. And I think my theory on that is because of the way that they were playing Phil Foden. But they were able to take out Jamie Doku with Feltman being brought in instead. So you were able to defend that a little bit more. And City just did not have a way to attack on the other side of the field. But here, you get the chance with Holland, and he forces a decent Will Steele save, uh, and it's a great pass by Foden, but he's making the pass from the other side of the field. He's on the left side of midfield at this point, so he's in a deeper position, but he does have a nice little float ball over the top that Holland's able to run onto, and he cuts inside, and he's able to. He has a chance to to force a decent save, but again they just City were very unbalanced, in my opinion, at least on that right side. And from like the so that what happened in the 65th minute, and from the until like the 74th minute, Matoma really did come alive. And so here, the first chance is Matoma forcing a good Ortega save, but I think he could do better as well. So it's terrific play here, set up by Dunk, having an inch perfect ball to Fati. Fati has since come on at this point. And he's standing at the halfway line. Then Fati has great control and vision to collect it and then float a ball over City's back line to Matoma to run onto, and he's able to get there, and he forces a good Ortega save. But maybe Matoma could do better with the finish. He has a chance to chip something here, and instead he goes low and hits it right at Ortega. And then Brighton had a corner kick and Matoma free header, and from free header close to the goal, and he heads it wide. But it's okay because in the 74th minute, the Brighton do score, and it is also credit to Matoma. So what's funny enough is it was very close to being the City basically killing the game. So it goes from basically Brighton having an open goal, City not able to take advantage of it. Basically, this is also the risk when it comes to what Declan Rice did. Because Alvarez tries to do the Declan Rice thing. He sees the open goal and he tries to hit it into the net. Only Brighton have a player there, and it goes. Brighton are able to block it off, and from there they're able to counter down the down the wing. They're able to get the ball to Matoma, and then Matoma basically schools Walker, go makes him go to the ground with some clever feet and feints. We saw this a little bit in the first half. We just didn't see necessarily enough of it until this point. And then once there, he's able to just try his cross. I think he's trying it to Yao Pedro. But Stones is able to get a foot to block that, but the rebound falls to Fati, and Fati hits it home. Fati was good coming on as a sub. But after this, you're like, well, Brighton had been the better team in the second half. It's been an entirely different game. Uh, maybe Brighton can get something here. And then basically after that, City flipped a switch. And like for like the next 10 minutes, they had sustained possession. I don't really remember Brighton having a kick on the ball. They were just so good at just killing the game with having a one goal lead. It was really annoying. And then towards the end of the game, unfortunately for Brighton, it looked like a pretty bad injury um, happened to Sully Marsh, and it looks a really bad injury. I think they said it might be ACL. So
And then the other only incident I guess happened was Akanji. Akanji got his second yellow that ended up being a red. But it was a funny game because it looked like City had the game in cruise control until about the 60th minute, and then Brighton had a really good spell. They got back to into it with one goal to make it a one goal game, and then right when City looked like they had trouble, City were able to just find a way to keep the ball and Brighton chase, make Brighton lose their legs, and they were able to kill the game off. That was impressive. City finally had Roger back, and I think that kind of helped them a little bit. Bernardo Silva was able to help a little bit with that as well. And that was impressive, to be honest. City, I didn't necessarily think were that great, but the way they were able to kill the game off versus a team as good as Brighton, that was impressive. Uh, but that said, watching this, I kept thinking Kyle Walker is struggling here. And Matoma is very, very, very good, and there aren't necessarily as many wingers as talented as him. So that is worth saying it. But I did think, Kyle Walker is he's getting up there in age. I remember when Pep actually in the beginning didn't necessarily want him or wasn't playing him. He was playing Rico Lewis last year and was playing John Stones. Basically, right back instead. Kyle Walker had that weird stretch where he wasn't really starting games. If you remember, he didn't start in the Champions League, and there was a talk that maybe he was going to go to Bayern in the summer. And he's come back and he's been playing this season. But this is the first time where I thought, someone really got the better of him defensively, and he's not offering a ton when he goes forward. I mean, he has had a couple of assists. He had that one to Phil Foden a couple of weeks ago versus Nottingham Forest. But I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it's necessarily working out. But so I mean, it's a third game in a row where Man City had an XG under one. They did have 10 shots and six on target. Brighton only had 5 shots and three on target. This wasn't really a game for chances. This was just a game of just watching how good teams were with the ball, being pressed, and how good they were at trying to pass under pressure or being able to kind of escape from it. There was a lot of that. Just this was a game for a lot of just really good close ball control. Um, it could have been better with the chances, but Man City with 546 passes, 90%. Brighton are a good pressing team, and they weren't really able to turn them over. Brighton 443, 88%. But yeah, with Man City, you have to start with Jeremy Doku because he offers them something entirely different than what we've been used to, and again, he basically forced De Zerbi to make a change just by himself, and he could have had two or three goals in that first half. It just wasn't necessarily coming off. But I also thought John Stones being back. He's maybe a player that I sometimes always forget about as well because he's not just a defender; he's positionless, and he basically was playing in midfield this entire game. He wasn't really a center back. Uh, and just, he's one of those reasons why City were able to kill that game in the second half. He was just be able to pop up in positions and just he gets the ball, he keeps it, and you can't really turn him over because he's so big. Uh, but I'm wondering if it's time to maybe play him at right back over Kyle Walker now. You've got a who's who of center back options. Though you won't have a Kanji for Man United. Um, I don't know. I mean, Ortega didn't necessarily have his best game, but you're probably going to have Ederson back. Uh, it was a weird game though. City normally having a two-goal lead, especially early, you expect it to be comfortable, and it really wasn't. I still don't necessarily know if Foden and Alvarez work together. I think I've kind of said that before, but it is worth kind of saying that. I actually also I'm wondering if Phil Foden is even an attacking player in the final third. Can he play from a deep position? Can he actually become your Gundogan? Playing as a midfielder because the positions he was getting in that second half he was getting the ball from deep. He was able to carry it, and he had a couple really nice passes to Holland. Uh, that's been another thing too. City just don't look for him. They never try to play Holland in behind, and I don't understand it. Pep doesn't want them to lose the ball. Fair enough, but you're not creating without doing that. And I still think they lack width on the right side. A note I had here was maybe I'm underrating how much they miss Mares, who had 10 assists and 5 goals for them last season, or 10 goals for them and 5 assists. Yeah. Maybe it is the opposite. I don't know. I think he did have 10 assists, so I guess 5 goals. But it's the third game in a row they've had an XG of less than one. And they are ninth for big chances created uh, with 24. Newcastle have 35. Brighton have 30. City had 135 last year. Kevin De Bruyne was played. Mahrez was played. You had Gunn again, so it was a different team. and they had 122 the year before. They were second to Liverpool the year before, but it looked they're not nearly creating as many chances as they have in the past. Uh, Pep has decided to sacrifice all of that for just being really good defensively to stop transitions. But it hasn't. Is it? Has it gone too far with it? I don't. That'll be something to follow. That'll be kind of the storyline with City this year. Holland back to his scoring ways. He scored a good goal yesterday as well in the Champions League. But they're showing that he's finding it's harder and harder to him to get touches into the box. And what's funny enough is Holland's become almost like a decoy, and Alvarez is enjoying that. People are more worried about Holland in the box, so Alvarez is kind of basically shattering him, and any kind of like loose ball, it's finding Alvarez instead of Holland. So Alvarez is getting a little bit more of the action. But I don't know. It's in Manchester Derby next week. No Akanji because of the red. They still have Carvalho, Stones, Diaz. You still have Ake, so it's not like they're gonna necessarily be short for options. But Man City going into this kind of weird. Now they did have a good game yesterday in the Champions League. They had like 26 shots. The XG was like 4. Maybe Pep has kind of figured something out. I don't necessarily know. Maybe they're different in the Champions League than necessarily in the league. And Manchester are a who's who of issues as well. So this is going to be a good game for kind of both of them to maybe change the narrative of them a little bit. Man City has spanked Man United in a couple of these recently, but at the same time, at Old Trafford, uh, I think Man United beat them last year. It was that weird like Bruno moment where they kind of got a goal that should have been offsides, and then I think Garnacho came on. So maybe Pep's going to think about that as well. That'll be a fun game this weekend. And with Brighton, I did think Matuma and Fatty were pretty good partnership. Like it seems De Serbi is having an issue this year that he didn't have last time, and I think he's spoken about that where teams maybe know what to expect from them. The other thing is having to play more competitions, more games, and the mix of injuries and squad rotation is making it harder to play that consistent, fluid football that we've come to love from Ratch and Brighton. And he doesn't understand what his favorite attacking 11 is. You also have injuries to Welbeck. Welbeck started this game and had to come off, and then the injury to Sully Marsh. And you don't already have injuries to Estupian. You have injuries to Lamptey. Who are you going to play at that left back position? I don't really think James Milner is a real option. I understand bringing him in. He's a professional, good for locker room vibes. Maybe you can play him in the Europa games. Uh, but I just don't think. I think he's cooked. To be honest. There is something to think about there. But the back line has also been decimated with injuries, and without Casado, I think the lack of pace to Dunk and Webster has exposed them a little bit this year too. Now he stopped playing Webster. You're seeing Ugo Julio now instead, but it's not the same Brighton as last year. And maybe it's something I should have because I was high on them to start the season. I said I could see them actually getting that fourth spot. I need to maybe be a little bit more realistic and understand that Europa is going to be a different challenge for them. Maybe they don't necessarily have the squad depth. Carlos Balba looks like he could be a really good player, but he's 19. How long is it going to take him to really adapt? He's fantastic with Liverpool. He had the mistake in this game. How long is it going to take to get that partnership either with Pascal Gross? Maybe it's Bill Gilmore who's going to be those two together. You've lost Alexis McAllister. You've lost Casado. You've lost basically the steal of the midfield that was so good last season. It's not easy to replace, and that is something to Ferguson isn't necessarily caught on since the hat trick. He had a knee issue. It was worth kind of saying that as well. Maybe that's kind of still bothering him. Yao Pedro hasn't necessarily kicked on. He's also been playing Yao Pedro in kind of a different role. So Brighton are having some issues. De Zerbi's having some issues trying to find a consistent team. So it is worth kind of saying that as well. And then I'll move on to Tottenham and Fulham. And Tottenham go on to win 2-0. This could have been anything that Tottenham wanted, in my opinion. Fulham were not necessarily good. They're better in the second half, but Spurs were all over them. Um, there was a really good early start where Son was basically forced Leno to make an early save. Tottenham were first to every like loose ball, and they were turning Fulham over high in their end. And the thing that was catching my eye was the kind of ball that Madison was playing from kind of a deeper position. He was playing it. He's playing differently as a number 10 than you would normally expect. But another thing too is just the close ball control and retention from Udogi and Pedro Porro. You've got their fullbacks, and the way that Tottenham were playing in these games. Now, I don't necessarily know if you can do this versus equal competition essentially, but at least in these games where they feel like they're the better team, you almost have double tens as your fullbacks. They are really good on the ball with their feet and able to to get the ball on the turn and pick out not necessarily just pass it sideways, keep the ball. They're able to create chances with it. Uh, and the only negative I guess you could say is Spurs were just dominating the first like 10 minutes and they didn't have a lot of chances on goal. Pedro Porro was maybe brought down in the penalty area. It was close. Good ball, good through ball by Kulishevsky, but it didn't feel like Fulham even had a touch in the Spurs like final third in the first like 10 minutes of the game. And then they did have a chance with Paulinho, their first corner kick. They were able to kind of Fulham able just to kind of do a long ball over the top, able to go down the wings and able to get across in. I think it was deflected. So that is kind of the risk to playing your fullbacks kind of this high up is if you do lose the ball, that ball over the top is on. And here they were able to get a corner kick, and it's a cross into Paulinho, and the header forces a good save. Uh, and then Mickey Van de Ven had a really good stop to stop a potential Fulham counter. With he was able to beat Vinicius to a loose ball. So it's risky to kind of play this way, but you have someone like Van de Ven who that Van de Ven and Romero center back partnership is really really good. And I used to think Romero was kind of a I don't want to say overrated, but maybe someone that you could be got at a little bit. Now you've kind of paired him with a just kind of the perfect center back partner, who can make those recovery runs in behind, and both are really good on the ball. So that kind of showed up as well. And then it seemed like Fulham just really weren't defending the wide areas, and the fullbacks were really really narrow. So they were congesting the space. They figured that Spurs were going to play narrow, and they were going to counter that as well. And then Spurs figured them out. So the first chance came to Hoiberg. So they didn't have Basuma, but it was a good chance by Hoiberg. So it was a good game by Hoiberg. So he gets a chance kind of top of the box, and it's only the second shot in the game at this point, despite their dominance in the 27th minute. And then the big chance for Richarlison. The counter is on for Anthony Robinson. He tries across and doesn't come off, and Spurs are able to basically attack down that side with Kulishevsky. Kulishevsky waits for help, finds Richarlison. Richarlison just misses it wide. And then there's another chance for Richarlison has a terrific pass to Udogi. It's a brilliant little thread pass to him in the box, and he tries kind of a cutback ball, and it's blocked. Calvin Bassey slides in with his arms kind of by his side, so well done there. So nothing comes with it, but it's really really close. And then they get the goal, and it's a fantastic finish by Son, but it's a poor pass by Calvin Bassey. Richarlison then has a great pass to pick out Son, who's onside, and Richarlison had a number of these actually. Richarlison had a good game. Uh, and then Son takes a couple touches to collect himself, picks out a spot, and just flies it past Leno. It's a number 9 finish from Son. It's a Harry Kane-like finish from Son. And then there's a chance for Kulishevsky, shot in the box, that just blocked Tottenham again all over Fulham. Then there was a chance for Richarlison to have a really good cross to Pedro Porro, and what a ball this is to Tottenham's fullback, which is kind of funny. And then the big chance was Kulishevsky. He just gets too cute. Romero plays a wonderful slip ball to Kulishevsky. Romero is all the way upfield. It is fun to watch Spurs. And then Kulichevsky just opts to try to square something cheeky, then to basically go for goal, close range. And I thought it was maybe gonna actually haunt them. So Fulham were lucky that it was only 1-0 at halftime, and with Spurs it was lots of possession and high shot volume. And I was like, what is this magic? How is Ange done this? And then Marco Silva did change it up a little bit, and these changes were good. He brought on Iwobi and brought on Raul Jimenez, just to kind of change it up. And they did start better in the second half. So they were keeping the ball better. I thought Iwobi was just giving them a better shape than what they were doing in the first half. Andres Pereira just didn't seem to. It wasn't working out. And so here we do have a chance though for Richarlison. Son picks him out, and Richarlison kind of just overhits it over the bar. Richarlison is very, it's very hit and miss. He is playing a different position. It is worth saying that. We don't really remember him from the left side. And to be fair to him, he is offering some width. He is staying wide. He's just not only just playing narrow, but his decision making can sometimes hurt them. But they are getting a little more better than bad. It is worth saying that. But it doesn't matter because they're able to get the second one with Son. And again, it is all Fulham's kind of effort. It's another poor pass by Calvin Bassey. He plays it right to to a Spurs player. Son gets the ball in the Fulham box and passes it to Madison. And unlike Kulishevsky, Madison doesn't get cute and finishes the chance. I said it was Son. It was Madison. Uh, so and I don't know. Spurs might not necessarily be title contenders, but it's very interesting. We'll have to see how they handle some injuries, but they've been able to handle some adversity. No Basimi this game. Sorry and Højbjerg stepped up, and I thought the main thought here is uh, however they do in the season, I think will be on their terms. They don't really have issues creating chances, playing through teams, and the only question is how many days will they maybe have when maybe Son or Richarlison or Kulishevsky just can't actually fire. Yeah, they have like 30 shots or 25 shots and just maybe not enough on target. But it doesn't seem like whoever they play, even City, anyone, they'll be able to create chances with the kind of creation that they have, and supply that they're able to do. Also with Madison, you're able to kind of play Madison in kind of this like 10 role, but Madison doesn't play like Bruno. He's not only a final third player. Madison will drop deep if you need to help him for build up. Madison will go out wide if you need him to occupy that kind of space. Madison is quite a clever player, and I don't know. It makes sense that Spurs have been one of the better creating teams in the league. I guess big chance creation teams, and I think they lead in open play xG. There's a lot of stats I'm just kind of ratting off, but they went out and got the best chance creator on the market, and he was available, and he was 26 years old, and I guess teams didn't want to bring in a 26-year-old. It's not like Madison necessarily has the worst injury record. And he's able to stay healthy here, and he only has once a week football this season. So, however far Spurs go, it will depend on obviously his health, and I guess maybe the fullback's health. Because the only thing you can maybe say here is once the game was won, Ange made a bunch of subs. He took off Udogi. Uh, he took off Pedro Porro. He brought on Emerson Royal. He brought on Oliver Skip. He brought on it wasn't I think it was I actually forget. He brought on someone from Madison. It might have been Lo Celso, and that team was not the same. That was where you were like, oh, this is maybe the Spurs I remember last year. Not nearly as good enough on the ball. Just everything, the fluid moments, everything kind of stopped. And Fulham did have a couple chances towards the end to maybe get something. They did create some chances to force Vicario in a couple saves to fight for that clean sheet. And the changes did change them. The depth maybe isn't necessarily as where you would want them to be, if you're thinking of like title challenge. But and a lot of changes does disrupt team chemistry. It is what's kind of saying that we saw that with Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Um, but there's no reason to rain on this parade. I mean, Son is filling in that nine void. People were wondering, well, you lost Harry Kane, where the goal's going to come from. It's going to come from Son. He's got 7 goals already. And a number 9 is not a position, it's a mindset, in my opinion. When you get chances in the box, do you have the nerve to put them away? He does. And Madison with another goal and just an unreal overall performance. He create chances for fun. He had 4 here, 9 for 13 ground duels, and I think he's the second best line splitting passer in the league after Kevin De Bruyne. Picada might be up there as well, but Madison just the clever balls he's able to just kind of thread in. But another thing that highlighting as well is his counterpart. The other number 10s in the league, Odegaard and Bruno, are struggling, and Madison's playing different. He's and I think he also has help next to him that the other teams don't because in a way he's got others with his fullbacks that basically play as 10s with him. So Udogi and Poro are different than not your normal fullback. So I think it's worth kind of highlighting that as well. And no Basuma this game. Horberg stepped up, but I do think Basuma will eventually get back his starting spot. And the only negative is the depth. But anyways, the manager deserves loads of praise for just kind of allowing his players to play with this kind of freedom. But it is worth saying that it doesn't work without really quality players. And you maybe saw that in the second half. So it's a really good game to display how good Spurs 11 is and then how just a few changes and how the football can look entirely different with squad players. But as long as they stay healthy and fit, uh, I I just love the chance taking everyone on this team takes. The constant through balls, the flicks to teammates, building possession from the back that leads to the most touches in the opposition box more than any team in the league. The touches, Pedro and I mean Pora and Udogi had more touches in the penalty area than Fulham's attackers. They're just a lot of fun, and they're strong at the back with Van de Ven and Romero. It's a legit partnership, and they're leading in for XG and open play, and they're also tied with Arsenal for only second with goals conceded with 8. So it's not like they're necessarily getting cut open back there. So they're able to play really expansive, attacking, fun, fluid football while not necessarily exposing yourselves at the back, at least so far. I guess the saying is not your dad's Spurs. I don't think Spurs have had a backline this gifted as long as I've been following the sport. Maybe I'm wrong, but just Van de Ven and Romero are legit good. Poro and Udogi, at least on the ball, are legit good. Maybe you can get them a little bit defensively. The fullbacks, that's probably the one quote unquote area where they maybe. But when Sar plays, Sar basically sometimes shops back, and he becomes your defensive kind of fullback. He helps recover. Uh, Richarlison and Kulusevski do a good job of running back and defending. Again, I don't necessarily know how long this is meant to last, but at the same time, I don't really care. So I'm not going to downplay them if they do end up having some kind of a realistic stretch. If this is only a purple patch, because they're playing consistent where City and Arsenal aren't. And I don't want to necessarily I don't want to penalize them for overachieving if that is what they're doing, because I'm in the mood where I want to reward teams that entertain me. Um, either with and I want the teams that entertain me to have success, either in PR or with trophy success. It's easy to root for the manager as well. I think it's the best story of the opening part of the season. So instead of trying to downplay it, I'm just gonna enjoy it and kind of just fly with it. And then with Fulham, I think the injury to Diop showed up. I don't necessarily think he's had the best go of the season as well, but he got hurt for Sheffield, and Calvin Bassey had the 2 errors that actually led to their 2 goals. It is worth saying that as well. As good as Spurs were, they were gifted two of their goals, but they were thoroughly outplayed, and maybe some better finishing in the second half. Maybe it is a different game. Um, Not having Mitrovic is going to be a theme for them the entire season. It is just that's just what it is. Raul Jimenez had a really good chance to make it 2-1, and with only 82 minutes into the game, and he hit it right. He forced a good save, but he hit it right at the keeper. Mitrovic is just a different player, and they haven't been able to replace him. And it was a better performance in the second half, but first half they were lucky it wasn't 3-4-0. And then I'll move on to Sheffield and Man United and see how we're doing for time. Could be worse. And Sheffield were able to. It looked like there was going to be a 1-1 game, and then Dallo had a spectacular goal. What a goal this was to win it. And McTominay got the first goal, and it looked like what can McTominay not do? And a couple of minutes later, I found out he can't really defend in the box, so he was responsible for the PK, and it's a fantastic PK by McBurnley. Onana dives the right way. No keeper can actually stop that, and that is worth highlighting as well because Onana was at the heart of yesterday's game where there was a late PK drawn, and I actually think it was McTominay as well. And Onana it wasn't the best PK. This one was hit on the same side and wasn't nearly as close to the corner. And Onana was able to stop it. So a big moment for Onana. And it's a chance maybe for Man United to build a little momentum. Because after this, you have City. You hope and pray for City. But after that, you have Fulham, Luton, and Everton. Kind of all in a row. And then once it gets to December, it gets a little harder. But a chance to build a little bit here. And with Sheffield, it's not 8-0. That's what you can maybe say there. They don't look like they're close to winning games though. That's unfortunate. And with Man United, no Casemiro, so we did see McTominay and Amrabat get started in midfield. And the interesting thing again was seeing Maguire and Evans again in the back line with Dallo and Lindelof. And so the early chances did come to Sheffield. And uh, what's funny is I had a buddy that texted me, and he was like, "Already Harry Maguire's messing up," and it is bonkers how they're forced to play another game with both together. So here, just the ball bounces off Maguire. It's kind of unlucky here. It falls to McBurnley in the United penalty area, and he forces a decent save by Onana. He's able to get the ball, get to the ground quickly, and otherwise it's Sheffield lead. But just seeing that 11 or seeing that back line together. There's a lot of talk about Eric Ten Hag. Should he be sacked? I think the person who should be sacked is who's responsible for putting that team roster together. It- Evans and Maguire starting multiple games in 2023. That's a relegation center back pairing over the course of the season. So Ten Hag maybe hasn't necessarily had the best go of it, but I think that needs to be highlighted a little bit more. And I get, you don't have Varane, you have Lisandro Martinez. I get they're not your first choice center back pairings, but it's still that's just a couple injuries there. That's your change. I know that they were trying to get someone like Kim Min-jae, that who ended up going to Bayern, and instead they opted for Johnny Evans. I don't necessarily think that was the best idea because you've seen Evans having to play in a lot of these games. Uh, and then there's a chance for Cam Archer, and it's a loose ball in midfield. Amrabat tries to get to it but misses. But here you see Amrabat playing in midfield by himself, similar to what we've seen with Casemiro. And all it takes is just a ball to beat him, where Archer is able to just have a free run upfield because Evans and Maguire are retreating backwards. Their first thought is to run backwards to give up all this open space instead of charging forwards to maybe engage. And that basically allows Archer to have a free run to get into the United's penalty area, have momentum with the ball, and he has a pop. And it forces a good save by Onana again. And then Man United are completely outplayed at this point, and but they able to get the first goal. Kind of a hopeful effort by McTominay, but it is good again. And again, what a month of football he's had because he scored a worldly free kick for Scotland for Spain. It didn't count because of a shaky offsides call. But that doesn't take away the quality of the free kick. And then you remember what he did with Brentford. And from here, Bruno plays a weird ball to McTominay. It's really close to him. McTominay does a really good job to just kind of chest this high up. It's not necessarily the best chest, but it's all he can really do. But he's able to stick with the ball, and he's able to position his body to get a strike with his second touch. And he scuffs it a little bit, but it's hit in the right it's hit in the right direction. And it's maybe similar a little bit to the goal that he scored for Brentford, where it's all about his second touch. I mean, the first touch to take the ball high, take the ball and collect it from like a kind of a high area is really really good. And then he's able to create a shooting opportunity, and he just tries something and takes a chance and it comes off. And I just think Fotheringham is not expecting this to happen. And then Sheffield will follow up with able to respond with a PK. And from hero to villain, I guess you can say, in a matter of minutes, really, this is just unlucky. I almost think he's trying to move his hand away, to be honest. But it's just a hopeful cross sent to the box that strikes McTominay. His elbow kind of stuck out. And again, teams need to not or players need to remember to have their hand behind their back. And it is really unfortunate. And then basically McBurnley has the most perfect PK you can imagine, so it's not really fair for Onana. But here, my buddy was kind of blaming me because before this happened, I texted. I was calling him Man United's Jude Bellingham. I was like, "What? He can't do no wrong." In the moment, and then minutes later, he has the handball. So Rex was like, "Oh, he can't do wrong." Um, and then Holland was able, Hoyland was able to get a chance in the 37th minute, and it's close. It's good play by Rashford. He has a cross to him. I like that Rashford is actually looking for him. In early in the season, we didn't necessarily see that, so it didn't come off. But I liked the idea. Anthony has a long switch to Rashford, and then Rashford tries to fire something hard across the 6 yard area to Hoyland, and he just misses. Just nothing wrong that Rashford does or Hoyland does. It's just barely coming off. Uh, but Hoyland isn't necessarily getting as many chances as you would maybe like. But and then Sheffield had a chance with Archer, and the game was kind of end towards the first half. So here Archer kind of plays a nice ball in behind, and he's quick to meet. He's quick to he quickly meets Onana, kind of charging at him to block him off. And it's honestly it's a fantastic play by Onana. And I have no clue what Maguire and Evans are doing, and Bruno just lets Archer jog past him. So it's not great play by Bruno, and it's a good play by Onana. Onana had a good game in this game, and obviously, he had a good game yesterday. And then a couple chances for Man United. There was a chance where Bruno hit the post on a free kick, and then Højlund was able to force basically Foderingham's first save. And Rashford tries a shot top of the box. It's deflected, and if the rebound falls to Højlund, and Højlund, he has a to me, I don't think he does wrong. He has a decent first touch to collect this, and then he tries to poke it past Fotheringham. And I think it's more Fotheringham doing a really good job to come out and make his body as big as possible, and he's able to deflect this wide. It is close to goal. Maybe Højlund, if his touch is just a little better, he's able to get the ball quicker to his feet to get it away. But I can't really blame him there. But it was a very weird game because when you look at the stats, you're like, oh, Man United dominated. And until I want to say like the 40th minute, I thought Sheffield had the more possession. To be honest, now it doesn't show like that in the stats. Maybe like the 35th minute. Yeah, I think even the announcer said when the Man United had the McTominay goal went in, that was really like their first like chance on goal. Man United were really struggling in that first half. They got better in the second half though. But Sheffield still had some chances as well. So there was a chance for Norwood. They did well to kind of work Onana. It is worth saying that it didn't necessarily come off. So here Norwood tries something outside the box and forces a good glove that Onana is able to tip over the bar. And then Rian Brewster came on, and just basically seconds being on the field, he tries to try something lucky from distance too. And this time Onana has a weird save. He kind of spills this, but there's no one near to like follow it up. And McAtee is like kind of there, but he can't win the aerial versus McGuire, and the ball just basically bounces over his head. Onana, I guess, maybe sees this late, but what he does is he does a weird step with his left foot, or to his left, and then he basically has to dive when the ball is going to go into his right. Maybe he thought it was going to be have different. Maybe he's fooled by the curve, but he's almost fooled here. But after that, it really was a united party. So we have Højlund with Fotheringham having a giveaway. It's a poor giveaway by Fotheringham. Rashford then plays it quickly to Højlund, who tries to go for goal quickly, and it hits it right at Fotheringham to collect it. Could have done better by Højlund here. And then Rashford had a shot kind of wide, but it's close. And what you saw in the second half was Man United pressure was creating more turnovers in the second half. So here Anthony forces a high turnover in the Sheffield end. He passes it to Bruno, and then Bruno plays it out wide to Rashford. Rashford has a good chance for 1v1. The angle's tight on him, but he just drags it wide. And then there's a chance that Bruno had for Højlund with an easy square pass, and it's a lovely long ball. Finds Bruno, and Bruno tries to one time this toward Højlund, and he just kind of whiffs. But the chance was on, actually. If Bruno gets this, it's probably Højlund's goal, first goal. And then in the 66th minute, Amrabat basically strikes the post. And at this point, you're wondering maybe it's just not going to be their day. It comes from a corner kick, and United basically have Sheffield pinned down in the second half, all pinned down in the back in the second half, all game or all second half. And it's just constant attacking wave after wave. And here, nothing comes in for the first ball. But Man United again able to keep the ball. And then it finds Amrabat, and he decides to just take a strike from distance, and he chips paint off the woodwork. And I don't know. This is like the second time that Man United kind of clipped the wrong end of the post. And you're wondering, well, maybe it's not going to happen. And then it finally does in the 78th minute with Dallo. And goals come from unlucky heroes. And sometimes you maybe need that when it's not going your way. And Man United have another attack that looks kind of be stalling out. Garnacho has since come on, and he's not really doing much to change anything. And Lindelof has the ball, and he seems he seems just kind of stuck, and he decides to just kind of square it to Dallo. He's just stuck for ideas. Squares it to Dallo, who's open, and Dallo decides why not take a shot from 25 yards, and he basically roofs it past Fotheringham. A Sheffield player is in front of Dallo as well, so this is not easy. It's not like he's free and has a lot of time here. And I don't know. I keep saying every week that they can't keep relying on hero ball, but if the hero changes from week to week, maybe they can. But I don't think they can get away with this. They weren't. This was a game that again, similar to I guess Liverpool, similar to Man City. They weren't Man United weren't on their best game, but they were able to get the 3 points, and that is worth kind of saying that. And it is relief for McTominay, who, uh, uh, you know, it looks like he had been the hero again, then kind of was the donkey. At one point, and it is worth saying this that maybe they were affected by the news of Sir Bobby passing. Someone I guess that was very involved, a senior figure, but is very involved in the club. And maybe players had interacted with him before. It wasn't just kind of a club legend. Maybe players actually like knew him. So it's possible that could have affected them. I think they did. The news passed a couple hours before the game, and I think you saw Bruno. sent out some kind of like reef to start the game. So it's obviously they knew of it, knew of the situation. So maybe that can explain a little why the first half was so poor for them. But I also think it was a case of Man United again lacked balance, and they didn't have Casemiro. It is worth saying that. But I think another thing too is just Ten Hag doesn't have his starting back line outside of maybe Dallo. Dallo over Wan-Bissaka, I guess it could be it. But Man United's back line is hurting them because they can't really press high the way that Ten Hag probably wants them to do. I don't really think they can pass from the back the way that Ten Hag probably wants them to do with Maguire and Evans. And basically, another thing too is we've seen a couple of games now in a row where Christian Eriksen has come on in the second half, and he's maybe been the best player, at least best player from the back. That's not necessarily one of their attacking players. He's not responsible for any goals here, but he comes in and he's able to give them a little bit more control. And I think you can get away with this because Amrabat's quite good at covering distance. Um, you know, I don't necessarily know if even Casemiro is back. If Casemiro should start over Amrabat now, that's going to sound like hearsay. But Casemiro, even before he got injured, wasn't necessarily having the best game either. And I don't know. I kind of like the things that I've seen from Ericsson. The only issue, can you find a way to fit a back line of or a midfield of Amrabat and Ericsson? Ten Hag seems to like being playing, McTominay, but I don't really know if that helps you, keep control of the ball. You need to find a way to get basically Bruno touches with the ball, and Ericsson's really good at doing that. And it seems like no one else in that Man United like midfield can do that. I don't necessarily know if we'll see Ericsson versus Man City, but maybe not start, but we probably will see him in the second half if the game's not a shellacking, because we saw Ericsson come on yesterday in the second half, and he basically had another really good performance. We saw actually Ericsson come on for Casemiro versus Brentford. So that's like 3, 4 games in a row. We've seen that. Um, I mean, with the stats, we have Man United and Sheffield both about like 1.4 for XG. Sheffield had 20 or 12 shots, 6 on target. Man United had 14 and 5. 3 big chances for Man United. I mean, the possession, they did have 62% of the ball. They outpassed Sheffield 449, 81%. But 35 minutes into the game, Sheffield did have majority of possession, and it just kind of flipped. Man United had 70% of the ball in the second half. Uh, but so there we go. Man City is up next for this. And I think it's the most disorganized mess of a club that there is. But teams aren't playing through them anymore. That was a big problem. So I think Amrabat coming in has helped that. But when they get in the final third, whether it's Bruno, Rashford, or Haaland, there's a lack of communication and understanding what player wants on the ball or what they're demanding of their teammates. I did like maybe I thought Rashford was looking for Haaland a little bit more. Bruno though was trying to get the ball and he was trying to just kind of go for the hero moment. And I don't know. I think it's showing up in the numbers. They're not getting goals from their forward players this year. Hoyland is getting into good areas, but again, something is just off timing wise. And who knows? Maybe they can put it together versus Man City of all teams. Hoyland versus Holland. That could be something to look at. Uh, and Ten Hag did get the better of Man City last season, and what he did was he was also brave. He brought on Garnacho, and Garnacho kind of got them the second goal. But there was a lot of talk this year or this week on should pressure be on Ten Hag, and I don't really know. I'm at a point now where I'm starting to see a pattern. And I see Jose Mourinho, I see Ole Solskjaer, I see Ralph Ragnick, and now you see Ten Hag. And when you see the same patterns and same themes show up over different managers that have different beliefs, something to me isn't adding up to me. And I don't think it's a manager issue. Um, Maybe Ten Hag has messed up the individual situations with Sancho. I think he could have handled that better. The player he's brought in for Anthony, he's not really great on the right side. I think it was a mistake to let Anthony Elanga go to Nottingham Forest. So there's maybe some of that, or maybe not finding a way to bring in someone that actually is on the right. Maybe he could play Pelestri, more. But I don't know. I think this is more a case of who is in the upper box seat, who is on the director's side. That has let him down. I think Ten Hag originally wanted Frankie De Jong. He wanted Darwin Nunes, Gakpo, Min Jae Kim, Kim, the Bayern defender, and he did finally get Hoyland this year. But The back line of Evans and Maguire is crazy to me, and I think that's on the director's side, and it's clear injuries have taken a toll, because obviously none of these players are who would start for him. No Varane. I think we did see Varane, yesterday, so we probably will see him versus Man City. That's good to see. Uh, but yeah, I don't necessarily know if this is on Ten Hag. I think it's just kind of easy to go with the manager. He's the face of the club. But yeah, what they did last season was quite good as well. So I don't know. Maybe a little hangover effect for the second season. They still have a chance to turn things around, so maybe they could. And it is worth saying it's going to be basically Bobby Charlton's celebration day. Maybe the crowd will be able to inspire something different. City are going to be going into probably a pretty hostile environment. So maybe that can be kind of sad. But vibes can only get you so far. You have to have quality. So, it'll be a perfect time for maybe Hoyland to announce himself. Maybe we'll see. And with Sheffield are a lost cause. It was a class PK by McBurnley, but I don't know. It just feels like outside of some big changes, they kind of feel dusted. And I think one thing that's worth highlighting is they had someone named Ilian Ndiaye last season, who's like the leading goal scorer and leading assist scorer last year. And he just, to me, he hasn't been replaced. They can't keep the ball. They can't create enough with their striking line. And they're not the best defensively either, as Newcastle showed, giving up 8 goals. And I don't know. It is a shame because I wonder how much of this is mental. If you think back, they had that Spurs, they were beating Spurs 1-0 going into like the 93rd minute. And they ended up actually losing that game 2-0 in the manner they lost it to. And it seems like that's had a carryover effect in a really bad way. And I don't know. The only thing I can think about is can someone like Ryan Brewster really step up for them? I think it was good to finally see him get some minutes. He's been injured for a really long time. But they spent a great deal of money to get him from Liverpool, and he was like 19. They spent a lot of money for a 19-year-old, and he hasn't worked out for them at all, either in the championship either. And you're going to maybe need to ride him. He's going to need to really pop up, and maybe he can. He's a little older now. I didn't think he had the worst cameo coming on, so maybe that'll be something to follow. And then I'll move on to Newcastle and Crystal Palace, and Newcastle win this game 4-0. Goal from Jacob Murphy. Kind of this one, I'm not going to be nearly as gracious. I don't think he's meaning this. Then it doesn't matter because it counts, and he had 2 fantastic assists. Jacob Murphy still had a good game. Uh, then Gordon, and then Longstaff 3-0 at halftime. Game's over, and then Wilson got the fourth. And the thing with Newcastle is the vibes were good. Vibes were really good after this. Starting to get some momentum into the league. They're leading when it comes to goal score. They're leading the big chances created. And all of a sudden, you look, and Sandro Tonali is in big trouble. And it is funny because I was just praising how they were starting to look, and they did not look great for Stortmund without him. And then when he came on, things did kind of change. And just the midfield is, I don't know if they have enough in midfield with just Bruno being like the main kind of the ball player, or Trippier. Trippier might have to do a different role because Longstaff and Joe Linton are different. Um, you know, Joe Willock is different. Even Elliot Anderson is not the same kind of player, and losing him is going to impact them a lot. And it looks like they're maybe going to lose him for the rest of the season because of the betting scandal that happened in Italy. And I think it really showed up yesterday when you saw Hal actually go to him, knowing it's probably going to be the last time you're going to play him, and he used him on the bench. He brought him on in like the 60th minute because it just what they were doing in the first half was not working without him. So that I think that's going to be a massive miss, and I don't know how Newcastle are going to cope with that. Other than maybe they can do something in January to bring someone else in. Otherwise, I think how is going to all this fun is going to change. Now that said, Tonali didn't play in this game, so it wasn't necessarily the reason why Newcastle won this game 4-0. But I think versus like the better teams, when they're going to need to keep the ball a little bit more, I think you're gonna need. I think the miss of Tonali is gonna show up, especially because like Bruno is like your main guy on the ball, and he's kind of your DM again. So I don't know. That could maybe be a story to follow. And with Crystal Palace just kind of they're struggling. It is just Crystal Palace without Eze is not really a fun team. Uh, so I do want to get on to a couple of the goals. So yeah, Newcastle just kind of passing it together. There's zero pressure on the ball by Palace. And so Hodgson was able to do this for Man United. He wasn't able to do it here. And then Fabian Schär gets the ball. He looks up. He has all the time in the world to pick his decision, and he plays a nice diagonal to Trippier on the occupying the right touchline. And then from there, Trippier one times it to Murphy to run onto it, and then Murphy just stretches the foot out to whip in a cross, I think, into the box, and it just kind of flies into the net over Johnston. Again, I gave Mudryk the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to do that here. I don't necessarily know if it's even on Johnson either. It's just kind of a freak goal. But it's a cushion. It's a great play by Trippier. And Fabian Schär. Fabian Schär has a nice pick out to Trippier, and then Trippier just one times it, and that's really the person to praise on the goal. What Trippier does is spectacular. And then Palace did have a chance with Will Hughes and Mateta, so a decent response. They're able to get the ball into the box, square it, and Jacob Murphy actually comes back and defends it. He's able to deflect this from going out, and it's a good play by Jefferson Lerma in the build-up. He's able to. I did think Palace have missed them, though. It didn't necessarily help in this game. They get a corner kick, and Mateta has a free header that misses. But after that, it was all Newcastle. I mean, a chance for Gordon. He hits the bar. It's well worked here. Trippier again is kind of playing centrally this time, and he has a great forward ball to find Callum Wilson's feet. Wilson does a good job to receive it and gets the ball to Jacob Murphy, and then Murphy hesitates. But he's able to beat a defender 1v1 to get to the byline and has a good cross over the goal, where Gordon is waiting at the back post, and Gordon just can't keep his touch low enough to hit the bar. It's not the easiest chance, to be fair to him, but because the ball is kind of coming at like an awkward height, and he tries to side foot us, and it just kind of missed. But I want to highlight how the chance comes because Murphy gets to the byline and sends the ball over. I don't think Miguel Almiron does this. I think he doesn't have the right foot to do this. And then we have a chance where Wilson heads a ball over the bar, and it's another chance worth highlighting because Newcastle are at their best. It shows where Newcastle are at their best. You constantly see different players making runs, changing positions. So you see Longstaff going outside. You see Joe Linton running backwards. You see Callum Wilson running to the ball in midfield, and you see Gordon kind of making a run in the middle. And that's where the ball is played to. Then Gordon has a terrific turn to spin the defender, getting him, marking him touch tight. And then he finds Jacob Murphy, and then Murphy just plays it out wide to Trippier ahead of him, and then Trippier sends in a dangerous cross. And it just finds Wilson, and Wilson it just goes over the bar. And then we get to the second goal, and it is Anthony Gordon, and it felt coming, and it's another well worked goal. So this time it's Bruno kind of getting the ball in the middle of the field, and he's able to find Murphy all alone. Tyreek Mitchell just doesn't know what to do, and because Murphy has shown the ability to go both ways, and Trippier then is also sprinting down the touchline and making an overlap run. So that also confuses Mitchell on what to do too. So he's just holding off, and so no one putting pressure on Murphy. He's able to compose himself, looks up, and he sees his options, and he plays a perfect, diagonal cross that meets Gordon back post. And this time, Gordon does get the contact right. And by the time Murphy kind of sends the cross in, there's 6 Newcastle players either in the penalty area or like a foot away from it. So they attack in high numbers, and they commit high numbers forward. And they have runs that aren't really predictable for defenses, and that's the reason why they score boatloads of goals. It is risky to play this way, but also a lot of reward. And then they get the third that kills the game off. Trippier is kind of playing centrally again, and Jamal Lascelles is just outside of him. So you see Howe kind of doing what Klopp's done with Trent Alexander-Arnold, what Eddie Howe is now doing with Trippier, and it's just a hopeful long ball. But he's trying to pick out a Callum Wilson, and he flies to Mark Gahey, and instead, so this shouldn't really be a problem. But Gahey, I think, slips. He messes up his chest, and then he slips and loses control. And there, Longstaff immediately runs onto the loose ball, has a clever touch, set himself up, and finishes past Johnson. And it is unfortunate for Gahey because he's under pressure by Callum Wilson, and he does well to bring the ball away from Callum Wilson, but the slips at the worst moment. And then they get the third with Callum Wilson, and it comes after a really tame effort by Decore. So Palace looked to have a decent attack on, but the weak effort allows Newcastle to break instead, and Pope immediately throws the ball to Trippier, and he finds Murphy. And then Murphy has a video game Kevin De Bruyne like early cross. This is a wonderful ball by Jacob Murphy with his right foot. Again, I don't know if Almiron can play this pass. And Callum Wilson makes times the run, and he basically gets 1v1 with the keeper and does a good job to finish. And that's the game. I mean, Crystal Palace did show up a little bit better in the second half. Basically, after the Eddie Howe got the fourth goal, changed the entire team, and that changed up a little thing. So Palace did in the game with 17 shots, but almost all of it was in the second half. Newcastle with 10 shots and 7 on target. Again, this game could have been whatever Eddie Howe wanted. 6 big chances as well. So clinical from Newcastle. And Palace, yeah, here we go. Palace had 2 shots in the first half, 15 in the second half after those changes. Uh, so with Newcastle, what I liked seeing with Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon continues to kind of be a little different. And basically, that Gordon and Murphy is how Newcastle were able to create all these chances. And again, everything was great until you see the Tonali potentially having to miss, and it's not going to be the same dynamic without him. And they've already scored 8 on a team. On a different day, they could have scored 7. They could have scored a lot more, especially if Howe had kept everyone in. Obviously, you want to rest players because you know with the Champions League game and stuff. But one thing I want to touch on is that the dynamic between Trippier, Murphy, and Longstaff was really really good. And I think Trippier has an argument to be called the best fullback in England right now. Now, Trent's basically a midfielder. That's why I can say that. Reece James can't stay healthy. That's why I can say that as well. The only knock is maybe Trippier is not necessarily the best defensively, but he deserves his flowers for everything else he's able to do, and what a signing he's been for them. And he's so good. He is similar to Trent Alexander-Arnold because to me, both of them possess the way to play. They're well rounded, so you can play them both either in centrally, or you can play them out wide. You can play them deep, or you can play them high, and you don't really. It's hard to predict where they're going to play or what positions they're going to make. They're really good long balls. You can play. They got great delivery. They can cross it in with really good delivery. Yeah, both can play inside and outside, cross it from the touchline, or make decisions in the half spaces. And Trippier is worth his flowers, but so is Sean Longstaff. I think it's been a different Newcastle team since Longstaff has returned, and I don't know. It just seems like he knows where to run, and whether to get the ball himself to create some chances for teammates, or basically he'll create spaces for teammates. He'll make runs unselfishly. And another thing too is he does really good defensive work to help close down gaps when maybe Trippier is out of position. He's kind of become Eddie Howe's Jordan Henderson to me. Uh, but the dynamics are going to change without I don't necessarily think Joe Linton can do the same things. And again, it's not going to show up in many games, but in those games where maybe they're playing equal competition, not having Tonali, I think is going to change them. But the enough of the negatives. Anthony Gordon and Murphy. I mean, when a team is sitting off you, you need your wide players to be creators and goal scorers, and here it happens. Murphy got a little luck with his goal, but his assists were amazing, and Gordon kept making clever runs into the box that just went unnoticed. It was hard to mark him, and he did a good job to finish as well. And I thought it was interesting to see Murphy start over Almiron, and Almiron's had a couple good games back to back, but at least it shows a little depth here. Uh, the only unfortunate thing here is it looks like Murphy kind of hurt himself yesterday. I think he had something happen to his shoulder, and so it'll be Almiron from now on, and that is unfortunate because he hasn't. We haven't really seen a whole lot of Murphy. This is maybe his best game as a Newcastle player. He looks really good. I think they said he hadn't scored since that game versus Tottenham, where he had a good game as well. And he just offered something different that we hadn't seen from Almiron. Almiron maybe has more goals in him, but Murphy was doing well to create some chances with really good delivery and crosses. So that could be a big miss. And another thing that could be a miss is Ishak. It looks like they lost Ishak yesterday, and maybe the Champions League is taking a little toll. You're going to miss Tonali as well. And what else did I want to say? Oh, I mentioned Anthony Gordon and Murphy. The funny thing about when you make a signing is sometimes you can get 2 players by signing 1 player, and it seems like by signing Harvey Barnes, that's kicked up Anthony Gordon to basically train better and to really pick into shape because he has been a player that I just was not really expecting, and he's been good. He's been good in the games that he's been playing, and we haven't seen Harvey Barnes. Maybe he has an injury, but that's been a bit of a shock. To be honest, but good for Gordon. Good for Gordon to see competition coming in and to ship up and to play better. Sometimes that happens. And then with Crystal Palace, better response in the second half is all you can say. So I mean, Howe made all those subs. It changed the game. I thought Rasaki looked better. Yeah, he tried to at least take players on. He wasn't losing the ball. Had a good touch to collecting it. And Mateus Franca, good cameo. 3 key passes. game was over. Al changed the whole team. There wasn't nearly the same intensity. It was basically a training session, but Saki and Franca, I thought did well in the training session. So I don't know. I think Hodgson needs to give them a little more minutes. But you sit in versus a good team, this can happen. They got away playing this way versus Man United. Newcastle want Man United this season, and you sit off. You can't defend with zero pressure on the ball versus a versus a team that's good. And you also can't allow when you're sitting back. You can't allow unmarked runs when someone's crossing it in to the back post. I thought Joe Ward was doing a horrible job guarding Anthony Gordon for my liking. So I mean, Newcastle could have done something similar that they did versus Sheffield, in my opinion. Palace maybe lucky it was only 4-0. They were rough. So I don't think Palace is set for relegation per se. But I don't think they're going to do a whole lot more than this. Now they don't have Eze, they don't have Elise. They're going to be different there. But yeah, this was rough. But anyways, I'll move on to Brentford and Burnley. Brentford have a much needed win. First goal from Wiza, then an amazing goal from Mbremo, and then an even better goal from Godas for the third. And really, the storyline was the changes that Thomas Frank made. So he went with he sat Aaron Hickey and Roslov and basically played Ayer as the fullback and Janelt as the fullback, and he brought in Onyeka to be the third midfielder. So it was Onyeka, Norgard, and Jensen as kind of the midfield three. And then what he did was he had Mbremo, Mopai, and Wiza. So we finally saw that front three kind of played together. And we were wondering how is he going to be able to fit Mopai um, into this formation. Jeremy and I were talking back and forth. We didn't know what formation it was going to. We didn't think he would work in a 3-5-2. Essentially, I was wondering if you could do a 3-4-3. Here was just kind of back to the 4-3-3. I didn't think they could. I didn't know how they would be able to fit. The fullback situation, the defensively, and Janelt was the answer. And I don't know. I mean, Janelt did have a couple chances where Burnley were able to get behind him. But for the most part, I thought it was good. And really, the main thing was I thought Onyeka was good. I liked what I saw from Ayer, Onyeka, and Mbremo. There was a lot of combinations play in this game that you just haven't really seen. And then another thing that's worth saying is it seems Weiser liked playing, having that different role. He liked playing as a wide option or like being a runner without the ball than necessarily the link-up man. And it seemed Mopai enjoyed being the link-up man, and that's where a couple of these goals came from. So it was if you're a Brentford fan, there was a lot to like here, not just because of the goal and not the goal score or the score line. The performance. The performance was important as well. And so here, I mean, there was an early moment for Brentford. It looked like they scored, but it's kind of offsides. Let's see. It's basically it's Malpai, and the goal is kind of ruled out for Ayer. I guess being offsides. It looks like it's Collins that gets the flick on, but not Ayer. But they assume Ayer is impacting the play. And then Burnley did have a decent chance. A nice pass by Trafford to kind of thread a ball upfield to Anduni to who gets it, turns on it, and plays in Lyle Foster, making a run in behind Nathan Collins. But Foster can't get his feet right to get a shot away, but he does advance into the penalty area, and then from there, Trésor was able to get a rebound effort and just kind of drag the shot wide. And then we had a chance for Onyeka. Nice job keeping the ball under pressure by Wiza in the beginning, and then Ayer cross, and then Onyeka kind of gets contact and just kind of flies right to Trafford. But I thought it was interesting to see Yano. Yano was playing quite high up as a fullback, um, and it wasn't necessarily just kind of playing defensive minded. He was up there. He was up there to press. He was up there to take away any kind of that option, and he was forcing Burnley to kind of counter with that. We did have a chance though, so Brentford do well to create a turnover, but Burnley quickly win the ball back, and then after Yano misses a tackle, this is where the negative comes to that. And Dooney has a space to look up and plays a pass to Lyle Foster, making it right upfield, and then from there, ball gets in the Brentford box, and the square ball finds Tressor, and again Onyeka just gets a little unfortunate, or does get a little fortunate here to stop this. I think the ball just barely goes away. And then we do have a Brentford chance. The Ayer just has a cutback cross. It finds no one, but again, I liked the Ayer, Mbremo, and Onyeka combo working out. And then we do get the first goal from Wiza. And Malpai does really well here. He does his best to just make himself a pass to challenge a 50-50 ball in the air, and then he helps Brentford win the ball back, and then Onyeka helps win the ball back, poaching it off and getting it to Malpai. and then Maupay turns and feeds the through ball to Embremo, making a run, onto forward. And it's a perfect way to pass. And then Embremo basically keeps his head up and he does a similar ball to Weiser at the back post. Another really good ball with perfect weight on it. And Burnley are a mess at the back. But this is really generally well worked goal by all three of Brentford's attacking trio, and just great understanding of where everyone was, and just being able to execute properly. And then a couple chances here we failed to Maupay, so we have a chance where Wisa catches Burnley messing up, turns him over, and then Maupay is 1v1 with Trafford and scuffs the chance here. Maupay maybe could do better. It gets past Trafford, but he doesn't have enough power on it, and Burnley are able to clear it off the line. And then Wesley's actually done this a couple, like 3 games in a row, where he's able to catch, someone turning it over really, really high up and leading to a good chance. So Wesley's a really good presser. Uh, and then this was maybe my favorite chance of the game. There are a couple of really good goals, but chance that didn't come to a goal. So 2 things happened here. Connor Roberts first picks up a silly yellow to time waste. That's worth remembering. And then after the throw in, Malpai basically collects a loose ball into the box and then shows really good striker instincts. So he gets the ball under control and has a turn, has a quick fire, and off the turn. And he did something similar like this versus Nottingham Forest. I remember a couple games ago. When he came on in the second half, he basically got a loose ball on a turn and was able to, from his back to goal, able to quickly turn those hips and force a save. And I like seeing that. It's not the easiest thing to be able to do. And to see him do it twice, it seems like he's got that in his lockers. Maybe he'll score a couple goals doing this. Um, and then we get the second goal with Embremo, and what a goal! What a goal this was. I mean, Brentford do well just to kind of break up field. Onyeka makes a forward run, and Bremo plays him in, so that little combination with Onyeka worked. Having that second runner, and Bremo sometimes likes coming deep to look for the ball. But sometimes you don't really have anyone else to kind of take up the space where Embremo is. This time you did. And Onyeka did a really good job to make that run, and then he advances the ball upfield. He squares it to Maupay, and it looks like the attack is stalled, but Maupay then has a touch towards Embremo. Embremo's like 20 yards away, and he's outside the box. But he sets him up, and Embremo has a FIFA-like shot that arrows into the upper 90. This is such a good goal. Um, and then, 2-1, 2-0, maybe Burnley had a chance to get into it with Koleosho having a horrid miss. It's unfortunate because I've talked Koleosho up a couple of times on here. Um, he does something that I just don't think you should do. And I'm going to, not necessarily to go at him, but it'll maybe another rant. So Brentford here are caught on a counterattack. They have a lot of numbers upfield. Brentford are trying to long throw in, and it doesn't work. Burnley win it and quickly break upfield. Lyle Foster gets the ball and has Koleosho sprinting alongside him. Foster plays him in, and Koleosho somehow loses his feet and messes up the chance to basically tap this in to get back into the game. And what he's doing is the ball is coming from the left side of the field, and he's trying to hit this with his left foot instead of sticking out his right foot. I don't understand this. I think it's awkward, and too many players to me are doing this now. I saw too many players doing this on the weekend. Kulishevsky being another where they refuse to use their weaker foot, and it's not like you're being asked to score from outside the box distance. Just you're 6 yards away from goal. Stick out with your weaker foot. You're being played. You're a professional football player. You cannot be that one-footed. I refuse to accept that. Anyways, that's my rant. And then the long ball to this is where the red card happens. There's a long ball by Flecken to Wisa, who's gotten the better of Connor Roberts, and Roberts just brings him down. And it's a second yellow card offense, and the reason why he got the first yellow is really stupid. He time wasted by throwing a second ball onto the field to stop a quick throw in when Brentford weren't even setting up to do a quick throw in. They were doing a long throw in and they were taking their time. So it was just Connor Roberts was stupid here. And when you're playing with the yellow, you can't do what he does. You can't get spun by Wisa here. Wisa gets behind him, so basically he has to do this. Otherwise, Wisa is going to be 1v1 with the goal. So Connor Roberts makes a number of mistakes here, and from there that was the game. 2-0 with the red card, and then Brentford have a little cherry on top with Godas, and what a goal this was! As good as Brentford in Bremer's goal was, this was equally as good. Uh, I mean, Norgard is just trying to cross. It's headed away and it finds Godas top of the box and he chests it down and then decides to have a pop from distance, off the bounce and he rifles it past Trafford. This was such a good goal. Uh, and that's the game. I mean, so here, I mean, Brentford needed this. Not just the 3 points, but again, the style they won it with, the number of shots and attempts on goal were good. And just what I really liked was uh, just everyone working together. You saw a lot of good team moments, a lot of good combinations play. It wasn't just hopeful. This wasn't hero ball. Now the shots that went in were heroic, but overall they played well. They played really well as a team, and I thought the midfield three worked well together. And I even thought the youngsters, Thomas Frank was able to get Yamaluke some minutes for the first time, and I liked what I saw him in the summer tour. And he's a creative attacking midfielder that possesses something maybe different than what they have at the moment. But so does Gotis, and it was good to see Gotis get some minutes. And what a goal! What a goal he had! But I mean, Brentford, 23 shots and 10 on target, 3.2 xG. Burnley, I'm kind of surprised by that because some of the goals were not really high xG. Burnley with one, 6 shots and one on target. But it's easily the most potent Brentford's attack has been. 10 shots on target is very good. 5 chances created. And possession was 50-50. That's fine. But Brentford were 10 for 13 in dribbles. Onyeka is a really good dribbler. Maybe you don't really have the most passing with Jensen and Norgard, so maybe you're still kind of looking for control a little bit there. Maybe Collins and Pennick aren't necessarily the best partnership. Eventually, you're going to get mid-me back, so that could help. But I mean, Brentford needed this because had they lost this game versus a quote unquote relegation contender, I do think the narrative on them would have changed, and instead, they kind of set their marker down that no, we're much better than you, at least at this moment. And not only that, they've got some reason for optimism where. Weissa and Bremo and Malpai looked a pretty good partnership, looked a pretty good trio. Um, so uh, so I liked it. I also liked what I saw from Ayer as a fullback. I don't really know how he can defend 1v1 versus like really good wingers. But in possession, he was offering them an outlet to escape pressure and keep possession. And I thought when he was going upfield, he's such a mismatch. So I liked it. And then that again the trio attacking trio. Also Christian Norgard, a 9 of 13 ground duels and 2 key passes. Norgard's criminally underrated to me. So and yeah, what more can you say? I mean, Mapai again. Good to finally see him start. He didn't score. Well, I guess that counted. He did score, but he was heavily involved, and I just he changed. It looked like Frank changed the shape for this game, and it really did work. And yeah, a number of good combinations between them, and just it seemed what he offered. Uh, Being able to be a link up man, being able to kind of drop in deep, allowing Wisa to have play a little maybe further forward, to be more of a runner. Everything seemed to benefit them together. So I did like what I saw. And then with Burnley, I don't know if that Koleosha chance it's 2-1. Maybe this is different. Company has to address the back line. The back line is really, really poor. But one thing you can say is Lyle Foster, since he's come back from that red card, like 2 or 3 games, he's been good for them. He created he created a chance for Chelsea. He created a goal scoring chance here. Uh, I think he created a number of goal scoring chances, in my opinion. I think he's been good for them. So he's leading the line. That's good. Uh, uh, the I don't necessarily know if I trust Tracer, but I mean Koleoshu, I think is maybe company isn't going to play him after that, so I don't know. I do think they're finding their feet a little bit. You have to remember Burnley, as good as they were last season, lost basically their key players from last season. They lost Ian Matson. They lost there's another player that was on loan for them that came back, and it's not the same Burnley team from last season. So it's and they're struggling defensively. So company needs to find a way to fix that. But anyways, um, and then move on to Aston Villa and West Ham, and this one. Aston Villa did go on to win 4-1, and a bit of a surprise. Both clubs are coming into this with good form, similar position in the table. And I do think it was a good game to gauge where both teams stand in the table. But I'm not necessarily West Ham or pretenders, but I do think they don't keep the ball enough for me to be anything other than a mid-table side. That does feel maybe harsh, but just you look at their team, they shouldn't be as poor as they are on the ball. I think it's more of a tactic thing by Moyes than anything else. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I trust it. But anyways, Villa to me are going to go in a different direction. I mean, they did start off early. West Ham did. They forced an early save. I want to highlight this because the kind of the forward ball that Paqueta plays to Antonio is really, really good. Antonio's playing it, making a back shoulder run, and Paqueta does a really good job to pick him out. And then Antonio plays Paqueta, who continued his run upfield. Paqueta has a good cutback to Bowen, and then you're able to force a decent save. And then after that, we had a couple chances for Aston Villa. First for Douglas Luiz, it's just a long shot. But theme of the game is setting up here. So Diaby is getting the ball and kind of unmarked. West Ham don't really know what to do with Diaby, and he's carrying it towards the center of the field. He's creating a lot of issues for West Ham. And here he squares it to Douglas Luiz, just top of the box, where he tries a curler. It forces a good save by Areola. And then we have a chance for Watkins. This is a big chance, too. Big early chance, at least. So good play by Diaby again. So another example of Diaby creating problems. Villa's shape is wild here because Cash is basically playing as an offensive winger. That allows Diaby to play inside more. And he gets the ball and threads in Watkins in the box. And Watkins has a good collection with his first touch. It sets him up well. But then he drags the chance wide of the net. And Watkins does all the hard work really good here. And then he messes up the easy part. It's a terrific pass by Diaby, though. Watkins isn't that open. He just threads this in. And then they get the first goal with Douglas Luiz. And here, Paul Torres plays the ball first, and he plays a really nice pass upfield to Musa Diaby, who again has made a run unmarked, and West Ham just can't handle him. Diaby then turns and passes it to Watkins, making a good run down the left channel. Watkins then has to wait. He waits to pass the ball to Zanello, and Zanello then holds onto the ball, dragging two defenders onto him, and then he slips in a pass to Watkins, and Watkins immediately slips a similar pass to Douglas Luiz. And it's like two passes back to back by Zanello and Watkins that takes out four defenders. So that's the reason why Douglas Luiz is wide open when he gets to the top of the box, unmarked, and he tries a hard shot, low effort, and it beats Areola. Paqueta though is watching all this unfold. He honestly could do a better job to mark either Watkins or Luiz, in my opinion. So it's not necessarily the best by Paqueta. And then before halftime, we had a chance for Villa where Watkins side netting. I want to highlight this because Douglas Luiz does a really good ball to find Watkins first, and then he's occupying a little space behind Ward-Prowse and in front of kind of the West Ham backline. And from there, it's almost like kind of like basketball between Watkins and Diaby, like two-way action. Pass and move, and between the two of them, and they're able to create a decent chance. And Watkins just kind of misses it side netting. So halftime thought it was only 1-0, but they quickly got it to 2 with a PK Douglas Luiz. And Paqueta here again also is messing up. So he started off well, but I didn't think Paqueta had his best game. So here he's getting closed down on, and he passes it backwards into some trouble. It's a loose pass that no one goes to no one, and it's in the penalty area. And Edson Alvarez just stretches to try to get onto the ball and brings down Ezra Konsa, the center back of all players, and then Douglas Luiz buries the PK. But after that, West Ham shipped up. They were better in the second half, and I don't really understand what it was. I thought Bowen got more involved, so that was kind of worth saying. And then Bowen got the goal to make it 2-1. And right when you think the game is done and dusted, West Ham find some life with Bowen, just throwing a speculative shot, but it deflects off Paul Torres and wrong foots Emi Martinez, and it's small, but like the little run that Soufal does, it just kind of freezes Villa's Zanello and Digna, and is long enough for them to lose their tight marking on Bowen, and that kind of frees him up a little bit here too. I think maybe Soufal was playing a little higher up. Maybe that was the reason West Ham were a little more advanced with their fullbacks. And they had a chance. They had a chance to maybe even tie this. Really good chance here. So a couple scares by West Ham in the 70th minute, and the biggest one is Antonio getting free down the wing. He's able to send in a dangerous ball that flashes across the 6-yard area. Bowen is close, and so is Paqueta, and this could have gone in. And instead, Villa were able to basically end the game. So they get it with Watkins, and comes at a perfect time because it was kind of up for grabs at this point. And John McGinn gets the ball and plays a spectacular long ball over the top for Watkins, making a run upfield. I mentioned how it was good. It was a great play early on by Paqueta with a nice little pass to Antonio. This was equally as good. And McGinn is starting to impress me actually, week to week now. And from there, Watkins then decides to do a little 1v1 with Kurt Zouma, and he fools him. Fools him with step over, faking, cutting inside to go outside. And again, it feels like, I don't know, defenders maybe just don't think, or you don't see this enough, where attackers like go down the outside to beat players. And so it feels like Zouma does well here. He prevents him from going inside, but that allows Watkins to beat him and to go past him, and then from there, Watkins fools Areola. I don't think Areola thinks Watkins is going to go near post and go high. And it's a perfect shot. I mean, Areola maybe could do better here, but it's a really good goal by Watkins. He roofs it into the net. Kind of a tight corner. But he goes high, and yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's a great goal by Watkins too. Given the moment of the game, a monster goal. And he's recovered from his goal scoring form. He maybe could have done better in the first half with that chance, but he's got 5 goals and 5 assists now. He's starting to cook for them. And then they did the 4th goal with Leon Bailey, and the game's already won, but it's a class goal to highlight as well. And it's set up by a midfielder I think is criminally underrated, just by his ability to thread clever passes in the tight spaces. And here Tielemans does it again. He sets up, gets to the top of the box and just throws in a pass to Leon Bailey, and Bailey kind of does something similar to Watkins. He does a step over to fool the defender, to chop inside to go onto his left foot, and it curls it in back post. It was a statement by Emery's team. The game was comfortable, and then Bowen strike kind of deflected, and it felt like we were about to see another Chelsea Arsenal game. And Watkins stepped up and was able to get back, get that 2-goal lead, get back momentum, and they were able to kill it out. 15 shots and 7 on target, 3 big chances for Villa. West Ham did have 14 shots and 4 on target, but I mean the passing number was 444 for Aston Villa's 89%. West Ham 228, 82%, and that 220 number has kind of been the same case for West Ham every single game week. And I know they like going long. I know they like doing things differently, but how sustainable is that? You look at the players they have on the pitch now. They've got technical skill to do a little bit more with the ball. And yeah, just a little disappointed. I mean, Villa though were really good. I liked that connection, that 2-way game with Watkins and Moussa Diaby is very very good, and so is the midfield. I mean, Douglas Luiz is kind of criminally underrated too, and he started to add some goals to his game. But the main thing, you watch him, and it seems like he could play on Man City. He could play on like a number of these teams. He doesn't lose the ball. He's got that like unique skill to. He's not really a DM, a defensive midfielder by trade by himself. But what he's really good, he can receive the ball from deep. He can turn on it. He does. He has got really good ball retention. He's good at kind of shielding the ball. He's strong with his lower body, and he's clever. He's silky with it. If when a player is trying to press him, he's able to get out of danger either with a pass or with a carry. He's a really good player. He's good at scanning. You see that as well, and he can make creative passes. He can make line splitting passes. He's a very good player for them. Champions League kind of player for them, in my opinion. And John McGinn is starting to really show up. Like all of a sudden, like, Villa have a little more balance in that midfield than I kind of gave him credit for with John McGinn. And basically, what you see is it's almost a 4-4-2, and in a weird way, it's Emery's kind of playing 4 in midfield and kind of allowing the spaces out wide. And when you saw this a lot too. So what West Ham were doing is they would have kind of the spaces out wide, at least in defense. And when the ball would go to the wings, that's when McGinn and that's when Zaniolo would go out and basically kind of use the sideline as an defender. I don't know. The shape was quite good from Emery, and I don't. The topic I had was pragmatism has morphed into a fun attacking side. Yeah, they also play with high fullbacks with Cash and Digna, and there's a lot of variety with Watkins and Diaby. That partnership is really really fun. It's a midfield that's built to win the ball back and to play in those attackers. Making those runs into the channels, and Villa are a fun side to watch right now, and they're deserving of where they are in the table. And the only question is, do they have the depth if something happens? Uh, they have Europa or Conference League. Is that going to affect them as well? And with West Ham, Jared Bowen took over a little bit in the second half. I thought Lucas Paqueta could have been better. So that is kind of what we're saying. But again, they don't keep the ball enough for me. And I don't know. They started poor, but they were able to get back in it until like the 70th minute. So maybe there are two ways to look at that. I think it was more kind of a realistic, a reality check, I guess you could say. And then we'll move on to Bournemouth and Wolves. Bournemouth get their first goal with Solanke, and then let's see. Oh, I kind of messed up here. And then is it Neta? Oh, Mateus Cunha, and then Kolasinac. Uh, so one thing to kind of get highlighted, I mean, it was an early goal for Wolves, and I mean for Bournemouth, and it was the Gary O'Neill derby. I guess you can maybe say this. It wasn't the best start for Gary O'Neill. So it's a well worked goal here for Bournemouth, and it starts with a new signing. Making his first debut in Alex Scott, and he receives the ball in well in the beginning, and he turns well with it and carries it upfield, and he does well to pass it to Philip Billing, and then from there. This kind of play has been missing from them all season, in my opinion. And then Billing finds Brook, who carries it kind of near the penalty area, and then Brooks kind of picks out Billing, who continues his run into the box, and then Billing has a cross towards goal that Solanke is able to get a flick onto. And then Wolves has a chance with Neto, a chance to maybe respond well. It's a good counterattack by Neto, and Bournemouth's shape here is kind of crazy. So you're kind of seeing that. That's been a theme. And there's a massive gap for Neto to just kind of dribble into with like no pressure, and then carries the ball into the Bournemouth box, and he sees Mateus Cunha outside of him, and Cunha then passes it back. Again, this is way too easy. And then Neto looks like he has a simple finish on his hands, only for Billing to come out of nowhere to go to ground and just kind of block the ball out of bounds. So not a lot really happened in the first half, and then Gary O'Neill made some changes. He brought on Doyle for Tati Gomez, and Doyle factored in the game immediately. So here, Neto has been the danger man all first half, and it's fitting. He kind of he's the lead figure to start here, and it's just one pass from Doyle that finds Neto's feet, and then he's like 30 yards away, and then Neto has a good run with the ball to pick out Mateus Cunha top of the box, and from there Cunha has a really sweet finish. This starts with that Doyle pass, and then the game kind of changed completely with the Cook red card. It's a silly foul on Cook in the beginning, just on Wang Lechen, and the Wolves player has issue with it and goes head to head, and then Cook lowers his head, leads in with his head, and it's immediately sent off. And that forced Alex Scott and Brooks to be subbed out, and that changed them. And there are a couple chances, man. Neto again. Okay, I'll highlight this. This was really good at movement. So, all that was missing after the red card was a winner, and this is in the 80th minute, and this should have come after this. This is a really good play by Wolves. So the close control and quick feet on this play, the multiple dragbacks kind of flicks to evade Bournemouth players, running at them by Mateus Cunha, Ait Nouri, and Rangli Chan is impressive. They look resilient. This is Samba-like. Then all of this comes from Wang actually having some energy in the beginning to contest the clearing attempt, and he's able to block it and win the ball back. So this is enjoyable here, and the ball is finally crossed in. It finds Neto free in the box, and just Neto can't keep the shot down. Uh, but then it doesn't matter because they are able to get the winner with a Klasenec. And sometimes when you're just constantly under pressure, maybe you haven't seen the ball in a while, you make a costly decision to try to keep it when you know you should just boot it away. And I think that maybe happens here with both the keeper and Billing. Both you can blame, I think, for the mistake. So here is a case of having to sub maybe Alex Scott because of the red. So the keeper passes it to Philip Billing. Billing thinks he can turn and hold on to the ball, and basically the skill that we saw Alex Scott do for the first goal. And instead, he gets caught from behind and loses the ball at the worst possible spot. Wolves pounce. Wang gets the ball and has a nice little slip pass to Klasenec in the area, and he finishes it to win the game. And the only thing you can think about here is, I mean, Billing is 6'4", and maybe he has freakishly long legs, and he thinks he's fine. But Klasenec is 6'6". So he met his match, and I don't know. It's fitting that the guy that created the chance, got the turnover, finished the chance, and it's Gary O'Neill with another timely sub to win a game, and heartbreak for Bournemouth, ecstasy for Gary O'Neill. And red card was the story of the game. It's the fifth one that happened in the week, but I don't know. This was all about Wolves. I mean, 511 passes. The red card happened in the second half. Wolves 21 shots and 7 on target. Bournemouth were outplayed. 4 big chances for Wolves. And with Wolves, I don't know, Pedro Neto, Wang, and Cunha, they all look good. I actually really liked the change that O'Neill did with Doyle. Doyle came in and had some really nice line splitting passes. And the reason why you bring up Doyle is he's a City player, City Academy player, like another one of those. Uh, and with Gary O'Neill, it's good for him. They've been playing some good stuff now, even before the red card, and his team deserves a little fortune, I think, to go their way. Not necessarily saying the Cook red card wasn't the right call, but they were unlucky. They were unlucky. There was a handball, I think, versus Luton Town that they were unlucky about, and I thought the unlucky with the Man City or Man United game. And to me, O'Neill deserves it as well. He gives his team freedom to express themselves, and I think the team appreciates that. You need talent to do that. Neto and Wang, but another thing that's worth saying is he's making the players look better than they did last year. Neto and Wang are looking like Tavernier and Watatara did at Bournemouth last season, and he's making real-time subs. He's bringing on, like we saw Bournemouth do last year. He brought on Kolasinac, he brought on that Tommy Doyle sub, and his players like him. Mateus Cunha said, "We believe in our staff and coach." And with Bournemouth, I think it's good you saw Alex Scott actually get in some game time. And I didn't think he actually played for. So you finally have someone to kind of be in your midfield, but I don't know. It's just Neto and Billing can't make the mistake they did, but and I do think it's harsh for Areola to come in. It's not necessarily the easiest job when you look at who he's got. I think they've messed up though selling Jefferson Lerma, but I don't know. It just Habanero, Watatari haven't kicked on for them like they did last season. I don't necessarily know if it's an O'Neal thing or not. They finally got Seleki to score, but he's gone a few games not necessarily scoring. Semeno has had some good moments for them, but he's used sparingly, and it seems Areola is struggling to find an objective. He's trying hard to find a consistent 11. They're struggling to find a consistent style of play. And another thing that's harsh for him is no matter what, he's going to be compared to what O'Neal is doing. And so yeah, I mean, maybe he'll kick on and work out in the end, but it does feel like results need to change, or he probably won't be there at Christmas time. And then I'll finally end off with Nottingham and Luton Town. See how we're doing for time. It could be worse. This one ends 2-2 draw. Could have been done and dusted like really before that. I mean, it was the Chris Wood show. To be honest, Chris Wood had a couple moments in the first half. Nottingham, I thought were doing really well to find him. I really liked what I saw from Alanga, uh, Gibbs White, and Chris Wood. You finally saw Alanga actually get a start, and I thought he looked good. And Chris Wood, I mean, he's like the second best like header in the league. To be honest, he's like weirdly up there when it comes to like historically like for headed goals. So why not? Why not send some service into him? And he was good. He was good at doing that, and he could have had a couple goals in the first half. But he finally, got his goals in the second half, and here was just, Luton sends a long ball of ours, like win the header to win it back, and there's a loose ball in the middle of the field. Wood is first to it. He's able to head it towards Gibbs White, and Gibbs White knocks it towards Anthony Alonga, making a run ahead, and then Alonga does a really good job to knock the first ball forward for Chris Wood to make a run in behind, and he's 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he's able to finish. So good job by Wood here. It's a little different than using his head, so good finish there, and it felt coming. And then they get the goal from probably what you would expect. It's just kind of a really good ball sent in. Anthony Alonga does a good job 1v1 to beat the defender, gets him to bite, and then whips in across, and Wood's able to head it in. And from there, you really did feel like it was over. And then Luton Town were able to just kind of, out of nowhere, in the 82nd minute, able to get something with Ogbeni. And it's kind of a free goal on the part of Forest. I mean, it's a free kick. You don't really want to give up a free kick so cheaply. So bad decision by Gibbs White to foul Barkley here. And then, or Sergio Aurier decides to he either ducks or he slips. Either way, it looks weird. So that's like the first line of defense to stop this ball, and it bounces over him. And then from there, everyone just gets caught, ball watching. And just a loose ball falls to Agbeni 5 yards away, and he's able to finish. And then they get the second goal with Adebayo. And I also feel like this is on Forest just being more dumb than Luton Town being great, but it all counts at the same time. And it's a great moment for Adebayo, who he had that highlight, poor miss for Spurs in their last game. So good to see here. This is actually a really fantastic finish by him, because the way he collects it with his chest is really good. But at the same time, Forest have to be able to defend this. And what happens is it's a long ball sent in. Joe Worrell loses the challenge and stops playing. Both him and Ole Anya just allow this to happen. He allows Adebayo to chest, and he's able to bring it down. He has a loose ball and finishes it. And then Wood, it looked like he had won the game with a hat trick, but he was called offsides. But yeah, it's good for Adebayo, so good vibes for Luton Town. But I think Steve Cooper messed up here. I think he made some second half changes. He subbed off Wilfred Boley for Joe Worrell, and you get what happened. I mean, Nottingham Forest did have 19 shots, 8 on target. It was a Chris Wood party. It could have 4 big chances for Forest. This game was over, and then the changes happened. I mean, for Forest, you're starting to see a little quality here, though. Dominguez, I think, offers them a little something extra in midfield, and Lenga and Gibbs White. I think the reason why Chris Wood was so good was the surface was good for him. Sangare, Ibrahim Sangare, I think, offers them better midfield protection to win the ball back, and the back line with Bali and Mario. or better as well. But what happened is Steve Cooper subbed off Dominguez, subbed off Bali Sangare, I think too early. The game was only 2-0. It wasn't really done and dusted. And you went from like Champions League, Europa kind of quality in some respects in some of those players to championship quality. And I think you got a championship performance when Yates and Joe Worrell came on and Aina came on. And that is unfortunate. So yeah, it was kind of laughable that they do it in the game. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, with Luton Town, uh, it's the the game winning the game winner is quite good for Adebayo, but I don't think they're good. And you can say that they are physically imposing, and any kind of loose cross it in with a free kick. If you get a corner kick, something like that, it's going to be hard to defend against them. But this team, I think, is going to be joining Sheffield in the championship. They just maybe joining Forest if Cooper decides to play his favorites. But yeah, they just don't seem good enough. It's 251. I guess that's slightly better. Passing on the ball, 70% accuracy. Though they just can't keep it. They're way direct. They have a style of play. It is worth saying that. But as direct as they are, I don't necessarily think they're good at defending. So they give the ball away a lot, and you allow teams to really go at them. And I just don't think they're good enough defending to be able to play that way. And it doesn't seem. Oh, maybe I could be wrong, but I just don't think that's gonna be enough. And, that's it. That's it for this week, and, we'll be back next week, and, it's gonna be a fun weekend, of football. So it's not just EPL, Classico is Saturday, and, Manchester Derby is Saturday, and then I think, Napoli and Milan is Sunday. Maybe we'll see, Christian Pulisic, and Musa. We saw them for the Champions League. Maybe we'll see them, on Sunday, and that's it. So, that is our show, and don't forget we are on Spotify as well, Reserve Squad Midweek, and, that's it. I see you all next week, and, you stay squatting. And stop recording.